You've only just been released, and you're already saying this sort of big talk. That's not too good, is it? Su Xing sneered, the heaven sword and earth shield suddenly swelling several times in size, setting off hostilities. On the other hand, his divine intent held on to the intertwined branch sword. This divine sword of 1,000-year contract perhaps could hardly harm him. Oomph! The Ghost Cavalry King's devil mask seemingly laughed, a ghost's cold ridicule. Wu Xinjie initiated Think Then Act. The Ghost Cavalry King's cultivation made Wu Xinjie very astonished. His cultivation was only at supercluster middle stage, but his martial arts actually were unfathomably extreme. Speaking in terms of the realms of star generals, he unexpectedly reached a frightening realm, matchless realm. The current Lin Chong and Yin Qing were at realms that fell far behind. The grim thing was that the Ghost Cavalry King's cultivation still continued to rise. She was very clear that for him to be able to fight against Emperor Liang, at that time, Emperor Liang's cultivation had already stepped into Super Void grade. That Ghost Cavalry King also was at least this rank. Although he had just been released from the Devil Suppressing Steel, if they let him recover to his peak state, the chance of victory for the presently not at all complete star generals was close to unclear. Escape. The Knowledge Star raised this thought, but she saw the dark clouds sealing the city. This clearly would not work. To make a prompt choice, only when he had reached Galaxy stage could they defeat him. Otherwise, they were powerless to reverse the rotation of the sky. Thinking to hear, she immediately sound transmitted to everyone. The current Ghost Cavalry King was not at all invulnerable. Due to his excellent military skills, the opposite was that his magic energy was shallow. This was his weak point. The Knowledge Star began to ponder over methods to deal with the Ghost Cavalry King. At this time, Yin Qing and Lin Yingmei advanced forward with quick steps, without the slightest bit of fear. The Ghost Cavalry King laughed gloomily, suddenly bursting out. His speed was even more transient. That was a thing that happened in a split second. Lin Yingmei and Yin Qing were still maintaining their attack stances when the Ghost Cavalry King suddenly appeared between the two. In the wake of a swing of the demon saber Ghost's God Bane, saber light and a shadow tore at them, a whistling emission. If the shadows of the Ghost Cavalry King's twisting body were all sent out as devils, a terrible pressure would scatter and launch into all directions in the surroundings. And the Lin Yingmei who had been approaching in this way immediately became his first victim. An explosion of black light flashed, and Lin Yingmei's horizontal spear looped out a cold light. However, there still was a part of the saber light that went through a nearly non-existent gap and tore Lin Yingmei. The girl tightly bit her teeth, collapsing onto the ground. When the spear swept towards the shadow, more than a dozen black wounds had already appeared on her body. The Yin Qing on the other side faced him with her fists making a rush. The Ghost Cavalry King continuously endured for a bit, too. Then he flung his sword. Another violently shot ray lifted a frightening pressure that firmly pressed Yin Qing into the ground. But the Ghost Cavalry King's attack was far from finished. Within the intense black shadow, the strange demon blade pulsed. Several arcs of sword chi appeared momentarily, continuously attacking the place where Yin Qing fell, in a flash, digging out an immense pit. Wailing impacts continuously erupted, and the sand and stone and other debris launched by the saber chi filled the sky. The earth had been torn apart, as if it were falling snowflakes, and smoke filled the air. Merely relying on a ghost's God Bane, the Ghost Cavalry King's tyrannical destructive power was displayed without doubt. Behind the saber chi launched everywhere, cold light suddenly shot out of the Ghost Cavalry King's eyes. Abruptly, his two hands gripped this strange weapon. He spread apart his ghostly figure, as he instantly concentrated on the weapon in his hands. The ghost's God Bane absorbed ghosts by the greedy mouthful, black and black fusing together, twisting together, and a strange harmonious mix came into being, emitting an aura of death intimidated people. Careful, it's a sword maneuver. Wu Xinjie raised the heaven-concealing star fan. Blowing speed is a crucial asset in war onto everyone present. At the same time a long cry sounded out. The ghost's God Bane seemingly swept over like a shooting star. It carried a tyrannical might that hacked towards the hole with Yin Qing. It was a pity there already were no longer living spectators, that could witness this stupefying drama. A black cloud was seemingly sucked into the sword, chopping heavily together with the weapon. It seemed as if the heavens were for his use. Time stopped, and a split second was like an eternity. Everything in the surroundings seemed to have been frozen in their time and place. This was the sword maneuver of the matchless realm ghost's god Bane. Countless black clouds chomped at Yanqing. Even the formidable imposing air was unable to elicit a change from the detached girl. They saw Yanqing stamp her leg, bend her body backwards, her two fists open-handed. Water flowing from her palms slowly made a controlled change, and a Taiji 3 appeared in Yanqing's hand. The Pisces on her hand circulated around, as if they had come to life. A kind of indescribable softness immediately soothed the berserk black light. The ghost controlled to being meek in her hand. Hey! Yanqing stepped, pushing it into the void. The ghost promptly vanished like smoke into thin air. Star General, you are very interesting. The ghost cavalry king was not angry when he saw his own frightening maneuver be played down. He smiled. His fatal attack was starting only just now. However, a spear suddenly appeared at the center portion of the ghost cavalry king's ghost's god Bane, rigidly blocking him. The white air mass flowing out from the spear tip counteracted the black baleful aura densely covering the ghost cavalry king's demon saber. Despite the mad chop of power like a violent wave of the ghost cavalry king, this spear's shaft blocked it. Unexpectedly, it could not move the slightest bit, rigidly fixed in midair. Humph! Lin Yingmei coldly lifted one corner of her mouth. The majestic star's weapon was sufficient to match against Ghost's god Bane. Then with a swing of the spear long blizzard nights swept out. Yanqing nodded her head, immediately flashing to within long blizzard nights. Boosted with speed is a crucial asset in war. This speed was violently swift. The cold and warm lights within the snowstorm leapt around, banging sounds continuously sounding out. Shockingly, it was Swallowflash Samsara. Su Xing quickly resonate with Yingmei. Wu Xinji urged at this time. Su Xing nodded, immediately setting hand signals. They saw a star array simultaneously flicker, and the blizzard turned even larger, the storm even fiercer. After a Star Master and a Star General signed a contract, the Star General would contribute a portion of her own star energy to her contractor. From the surface, it seemed the Star General had gains that did not make up for the losses, but there actually was an additional benefit. This was resonance. The so-called resonance let the contractor urge on each other's Star Crest contract array to shift their own star energy and thoughts to the Star Maiden. With things like this, the Star Maiden's realm would, for a set time, be greatly promoted. If an earthly star military general wanted to defeat a heavenly star military general, even with a top-notch heavenly star military general or such, this kind of contract resonance was the only way. Of course, this resonance had a fatal flaw. At the time the Star Master began to shift his own strength, then he would be trapped motionless where he was. During this time, unless the Star General severed the resonance, in the case he moved, there would be backlash. In addition, after the resonance started, the Star Master really was like fish meat on a chopping board about to be slaughtered. Within a star duel of Star Masters, unless they had protection magics protecting their bodies, this kind of resonance was very difficult to achieve. After all, both sides were controlling the counterpart's resonance. However, if they confronted a Star General that was alone, there was an enormous advantage. In past generations of star duels, the strength star Jade Qilin, publicly known as the one with the strongest military force, died many times under the resonance of a contractor and Star General. Let's help Master with protection magic. Wu Xinjie and the others stood guard next to him, star energy skyrocketing. Hey! Lin Yingmei's star crest rotated like flowing water, her eyes suddenly pure white. Under resonance, in an instant she entered 10,000 Techniques realm. Her spear's power piled up like tides, instantly penetrating the Ghost Cavalry King's body with holes. Bang bang bang! 66 Ghost Cavalry and 33 Divine Generals abruptly separated from his body. The Ghost Cavalry King that could take things lying down and fool Zhao Cheng into undoing all the seals was not stupid. Immediately, he dispersed his body to separate from the pressure Lin Yingmei brought. Seeing the peculiarity of Su Xing and the others to the side, he vaguely realized something, angrily moving over for the kill. The Ghost Cavalry King, holding Ghost's Godbane in his hand, had only just broke through Lin Yingmei's spear technique, but the skillful star Yin Qing cleverly pivoted backward, blocking in front of him. However, the Ghost Cavalry King's matchless realm, indeed, was invulnerable. Yin Qing's boxing could not bring any damage at all. However, the girl's objective was only to fight for time to give Su Xing and Lin Yingmei resonance. As expected, the Ghost Cavalry King froze for a moment. After Lin Yingmei's violent attack tore open more than a dozen divine generals, it suddenly invaded. The 10,000 Techniques realm majestic star broke through the obstructions of the Ghost Cavalry King's shadow. She seized the time she was in resonance to spare no effort in wanting to dispatch her enemy in a spurt of energy. Resounding metal sparked in the air, ignited blood in an omen. Damn it! The Ghost Cavalry King's expression changed. The two heavenly stars before his eyes were much more formidable than he imagined. Originally, he thought he could easily win, but his own Ghost's Godbane unexpectedly could not take any sort of advantage over the opponent's weapon. The Ghost Cavalry King raised an upturned hand. The shadows on the saber, just like countless chains, pounced all around, wishing to seal off the coordination of the two girls. Oomph! A cold laugh. When Lin Yingmei attacked, her speed abruptly increased. Behind her was an illusory ghost. These clones were real and fake, passing off the fake as real. Each one's attack was completely full of a murderous aura. This exactly was the 10,000 Techniques realm's feature. Ghost's Godbane breathed out a weight, and the ghosts broke the doppelgangers in less than half a second. Lin Yingmei's spear ran through, and an illusory shadow emerged from the spear. However, as far as the Ghost Cavalry King's excellent military skills, it still was not enough to confuse him. His long sword deflected it, and Yin Qing's attack again closed in. Her right hand was covered in a warm light, the surroundings suddenly rolling out an intense whirlwind. A huge wind pressure made those terrifying shadows roll away. In the unbounded dazzling rays, the girl's vermilion pupils was still solemn and detached, her body bending backwards. And after she stopped briefly, she suddenly bounced back, her right fist swinging out all the strength her body was already carrying. The instant she sent out her fist, time seemed to stand still, the surrounding air seemingly idle for a second. Oomph! The Ghost Cavalry King's fist crashed into Yin Qing's fist. The powerful fist made the square shake, and almost seemingly sink. Damned bastard! The shadow hacked down in a flash. Yin Qing's body flew out. The Ghost Cavalry King was about to chop at her, when a white figure abruptly descended in front of him, brimming with killing intent. A glaring light extended from the Ghost Cavalry King's shoulder blade across his entire upper body, nearly cutting him in half. Red bloodlight directly shot out from within. A blood-curdling scream. The Ghost Cavalry King twisted out a loud shout. The Ghost Cavalry divine generals that left his body all returned. If it was not for his training this odd soul body, the ordinary person would already have been done for. However, Lin Yingmei's at all costs spear attack was not at all ineffective. The Ghost Cavalry King's Ghost Cavalry unexpectedly had a portion extinguished. His cultivation instantly fell to supercluster early stage. Wu Xingjia's eyes glowed, and she saw hope. However, this type of hope had not sustained for long when the Ghost Cavalry King exposed his natural malevolence. All of you die. Ghost's Godbane was raised, at last no longer restrained, and the demon saber transformed into an immense evil dragon. The Ghost Cavalry King was incapable of believing that the spirit body, even Emperor Liang, was unable to deal with unexpectedly had been grievously injured by the girl before his eyes. The Ghost Cavalry King was indignant. His magic energy gathered, and his demon blade became an evil dragon that bit at Lin Yingmei. Bloodlight suddenly appeared. The angry demon blade lifted Lin Yingmei's body, throwing her backwards. The Arctic Star Spear was directly flung out of her hands. If it was not for the Star General's indestructible body, this sword at least would cut off her entire right arm. This sword attack also made Su Xing and Lin Yingmei's resonance briefly break off. Su Xing vomited a mouthful of blood, and happened to see the Ghost's Godbane about to bite the completely defenseless Lin Yingmei. This explosive speed of the Ghost Cavalry King was too fast, for the others simply were too late to go save her. Su Xing stepped forward. Execute chaotic tail escape. Blocking in front of Lin Yingmei, the evil dragon bit onto Su Xing's body, crushing his ribs. The golden thread fish scale armor was completely torn open, as if it were paper, plainly showcasing this attack's terror. Young master! Lin Yingmei hastily held the fallen Su Xing in fear. The evil dragon was just about to bite Su Xing to pieces, when at this time, an object of flickering gold light smashed onto the evil dragon. The evil dragon howled grievously as it was smashed apart. Shi Yuan and the rest hastily rushed in front of Su Xing, and when they saw the wretched sight of Su Xing, they were deathly pale for a while. You dared to injure young master. This young lady wants your life. The thief star was wrathful, sallying her hoodwinking flying claws. Don't! Wu Xinjie had not yet finished yelling. The demon dragon spat light, a large sword flashed that flung open the flying claws. Penetrating through Shi Yuan, the Ghost Cavalry King in a flash rode over, his saber like the evil dragon. Ha ha! It seems you want to die together for love. Then let me help you. Su Xing. Su Xing once again used the chaotic tail escape to appear before Shi Yuan. The intertwined branch sword's green light flickered, then stopped the demon saber. This divine sword of thousand-year contract was sufficient to match with the Ghost Cavalry King's demon saber. The matchless realm Ghost Cavalry King was only blank for a moment. Then he waved the demon saber. The Yin-Yang Pisces blocked the ghost's godbane. Yin Qing's fists flew out and explosively sent the Ghost Cavalry King backwards. Those indifferent pupils of hers for the first time appeared flabbergasted. Why would you go protect a star general? Everyone knew a star general possessed an indestructible body. After signing a contract, regardless of how great the injury received, as long as the star general entered the star nest and relied on the contractor's star energy for support, they would recover. However, contractors were different. When the star nest and star general were linked, in the case that the contractor received harm, the star general herself would also receive injury. If the contractor died, the star general would then suffer enormous injury to her vital energy, such that she would be reduced to a cripple. So each person in the star duels all realized the most important thing for a contractor was that a star maiden forever would assume the responsibility of admitting death. In other words, the contractor should even feel that the star general should die for them. Who would let his own women die for him? Don't find any vital interests at stake. That is merely the excuse of a weakling. Su Xing wiped the blood from the side of his mouth. After all, he possessed professionalism, as well as his being from another civilization on Earth. He could not indifferently look on as they died for him, no matter how great of a benefit existed in between. Wu Xinjie and the rest were shaken. Although Su Xing already on more than one occasion brought them feelings they never had, this time, they felt that their hearts had been moved. Perhaps it was precisely because of this characteristic that stood out from the rest of the Liangshan continent that he deeply attracted their service. Yin Qing was incomparably shocked. The black dragon once again swooped down. Yin Qing returned to her senses, one fist repelling the demon blade. The corner of the girl's mouth showed a faint curve. Do you truly feel this way? She did not turn her head around. What? Su Xing did not understand her words at all. The skillful star easily danced, and her hand gained a crossbow. That crossbow had a peculiar shape. Its entire body was filled with dark lines, sparkling and translucent like blood. When Yin Qing took it into her hands to take aim, they only saw the tattoo on the girl's spotlessly white snowy back simultaneously flash a flame-like light. That was a type of unprecedented magnificence. Those red lines began to jump as if life had been poured into them, and a blaze entered the middle of the crossbow. The crossbow's dark marks simultaneously flashed rather than join. The dark red light started to become a crossbow's arrow. 3 arrows lethal crossbow. Wu Xinjie was shaken, but it was not just she. Lin Yingmei and Suwen and Shi Yuan all were also dumbfounded. Of course it was not strange they would be this astonished. If they knew the history of Yin Qing's 3 arrows lethal crossbow, then they would know that was a fully legendary folktale. The 3 arrows lethal crossbow, the skillful star wanderer Yin Qing's legendary martial art, her second destined star weapon. 2. The 3 arrows each constituted devotion power, 3 admiration valor, and resolution sacrifice. 5. The 3 arrows simultaneously aimed to hit the target, piercing the sun and breaking the moon, moving the mountains and draining the seas, its might boundless. However, the 3 arrows lethal crossbow was a destined star weapon that would only appear when Yanqing was moved. But to make Yanqing emotionally moved was no ordinary challenge. The opportunities for the 3 arrows lethal crossbow in previous generations of star duels were not many. But how should this be said? All of heaven's myriad dharmas returned to the one. Yin and yang were in equilibrium. Do not look at the 3 arrows lethal crossbow as terrible, but as having 2 massive failings. The first weakness was that the 3 arrows lethal crossbow could only be used once in each star duel's phase. And the second failing was even more terrible. After usage, the 3 arrows would take the enemy's life, and that Yanqing's own body would also lose half her life. In other words, her vital energy would be greatly harmed. Indeed, this was the so-called kill 3,000 enemies, self-harm by 800 sort of move. Thus, Yanqing rarely showed this 3 arrows lethal crossbow. Wu Xinjie envied and lamented this. She also had a second star weapon, but it was just that she currently did not know what she should do to make it appear. 6. Gentlemen 7 concealed tools on their person, waiting for an opportunity and then acting. Unchanging loyalty to the extent of death. Su Xing was not clear on the history of the 3 arrows lethal crossbow, but seeing the girl halt, her mouth spitting an incantation, her star crest flickering, the stars resonating, the star array fluttering, he realized she currently was doing something awesome. And it seemed she was completely defenseless right now. The Ghost Cavalry King evidently felt fear, promptly again letting out Ghost Cavalry Divine Generals. Lin Wangmai had sustained heavy injuries, and not only did that full power attack of hers inflict serious damage on the Ghost Cavalry King, she herself had collapsed just as if she was incapable of fighting anymore. Wu Xinjie and Suwen and Shi Yuan assumed the responsibility to protect the majestic star. Fortunately, the star weapon could briefly hold back the tyranny, but if it wanted to again advance half a step, that was impossible. The Ghost Cavalry King split in 2 directions, slashing towards Yanqing. And the girl closed her eyes in meditation, completely defenseless, as if that saber did not exist at all. A kind of silent trust. Su Xing bit his teeth, enduring the tremendous injury to his ribs, as he dove over. The just wounded Ghost Cavalry King again used Divine Ghost Mirage. The original body's capabilities greatly decreased, and in addition to the fact he was a cultivator proficient only in martial arts, he did not have sword arts, artifacts or magic weapons. If he relied on simple weapons to oppose him, the injured Su Xing could also barely ward the Ghost Cavalry King off. It was just that the cost of this resistance was scars all over his body. Continuously receiving the saber light's sadistic assault, he made the heart of the girls behind him hurt tremendously. This guy surprisingly did not escape the Ghost Cavalry King's saber brushed over, again adding to Su Xing a wound deep enough to reveal bone. Seeing Su Xing unexpectedly disregard his life and wrap himself, this was the first time the Ghost Cavalry King encountered such a thing. Su Xing was only a nebula late-stage cultivator in his eyes, an ant he could pinch to death at any time, but against reason, this mere ant showed a matchless valiant determination. His body was like a city wall, unwilling to move in the slightest. The space between the two once more splashed with a violent spark. This time, the Ghost Cavalry King's black saber light did not run through Su Xing's frail defenses. He directly nipped Su Xing full of cuts and bruises. They only saw that intertwined branch sword in his hand become enveloped in green light, as if it sensed the original kind intentions of its owner's protection. Not only did it begin to resist the sword light, a kind of fantastic energy made Su Xing forget the pain that was tearing at him. However, this type of defense and resistance was far from enough. The Ghost Cavalry King indeed stood simultaneously at the peak of power and speed, a character that previously contended against Emperor Liang. Even if he had only been released from the devil-suppressing steel and received serious damage from Lin Yingmei, he was still a great deal higher than Su Xing in realms. when the Ghost Cavalry King's demon saber transformed into an evil dragon that cleanly devoured the green light of the intertwined branch sword. The specter completely unfolded for a moment, like a gale that continuously slashed and oppressed Yin Qing. Su Xing coldly shouted. Bringing his body to the limits, he forced out a blooming water divine thunder. Purple clouds diffused everywhere, and the divine thunder changed into a python. This was also thanks to the blooming water spirit mixing pill that Ensuin refined that made the blooming water divine thunder acquire a spiritual nature. Because he previously knew that this could not bring harm to the Ghost Cavalry King, Su Xing did not use it in any particular way. Now, he practically did not have star energy, but the blooming water divine thunder in his body actually was abundant beyond expectations. The blooming water divine thunder python then rolled out from inside Su Xing's body and bit the demon blade evil dragon. Lightning rumbled, and purple lightning struck everywhere. At this time, upon Yin Qing's 3 arrows lethal crossbow, the second arrow already formed. The Ghost Cavalry King's fierce teeth were ice cold. His long sword violently slashed, and the blooming water divine thunder was hacked to bits and pieces. A saber light swift to the extreme directly swept past from Su Xing's body. Su Xing's legs stamped into the ground, fixing him as if they were nails. Red blood floated, and the hearts of the girls watching were stirred. He really was not sent flying. Die! The Ghost Cavalry King slashed vertically. The intertwined branch sword again horizontally blocked, and the Heaven Sword and Earth Shield at this moment also came to protect him. The Ghost Cavalry King's sword light heavily swept over. The already again heavily injured Su Xing's arms blocked horizontally. The pressure Su Xing felt dispersing from the Ghost Cavalry King made him feel the bones in his arms were nearly about to shatter. Then, an exploding fist almost tore apart Su Xing's internal organs. Pain. An immense pain. Su Xing tightly pursed his lips. At this time, the girls over there by Wuxia already were extremely worried. If this continued, Su Xing would undoubtedly die. The knowledge star's mind spun rapidly, looking for a countermeasure to deal with the situation. Suddenly, she saw the devil suppressing steel to the side, immediately having Shi Yuan go grab it. The divine generals the Ghost Cavalry King let out were very violently tyrannical. The besieged girls without military power continuously were beat back. Wu Xinjie threw out a copper chain to block them, immediately afterwards using her body as a shield. Her body was pierced through by a divine cavalry, yet her expression did not change. Shi Yuan tacitly understood what to do, and hastily rushed over. The divine cavalry waved its weapon to chop Wu Xinjie's head SFX. Clang clang. An ice-cold spear pierced through the ice-cold flame, and dissolved this danger. Lin Yingmei grasped her spear in one hand, her expression bone-chilling. She waved the pike with one arm, an irresistible force, and the spear tore this divine cavalry to shreds. The terrible sound of flesh and blood penetrated. Big brother! And Suin shouted in fright. This time, finally, Su Xing did not block the Ghost Cavalry King's demon saber. His stomach directly pierced by the sword. Humph! Contending against this king for this long by means of your cultivation, this is your damned place. The Ghost Cavalry King sneered. His mirages melted together into one body. Abruptly, a purple-colored thunder and lightning broke out of his body, following the demon blade, and being expelled by the Ghost Cavalry King. The Ghost Cavalry King did not expect Su Xing at this time to unexpectedly still be able to use an astonishing thunder. Watch this king eat your replenishing essence chi. The Ghost Cavalry King opened his mouth, and a black light pounced toward Su Xing. Su Xing's face did not change expressions. Then he smiled. Behind him a calm, solemn and graceful sound. The gentleman attends to the source established then gives birth to the way. 8 To this greater good, I offer my body my path in life. 3 arrows resonated. The girl opened her eyes. 1. So much for invincible armor, how ironic. An item he got from an undead has been destroyed by another undead. Right arrow curving left 2. Lol, what, they can have more than one. Right arrow curving left 3. Right arrow curving left 4. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. Well, I don't recall the author saying star generals had only one destined star weapon. right arrow curving left 7. Seems to be the Confucian usage of the term right arrow curving left 8. The superior man bends his attention to what is radical. That being established, all practical courses naturally grow up, is the translation by James Legge, a scholar. The 3 arrows of red light rushed forth. The lethal 3 arrows that dissolved nearly all of the star energy in Yen Qing's body were immediately launched. 3 twinkling arrows, just like the red radiance of the sun, successively faded away without warning. The Ghost Cavalry King only saw a wisp of bright red flash by in front of him. Then the 3 arrows penetrated into his stomach. There was howling and shrill scream, and a wide expanse of red light burst out from the Ghost Cavalry King's body. The ghost's body seemed to be branded a complete red. Suddenly, he was all split up and in pieces, a frightening heat that forced everyone to look away. Yen Qing groaned. The 3 arrows' lethal crossbow disappeared in her hand, and the girl lost her strength, her body turning limp. Su Xing barely caught her with one hand, but that still was not enough as he collapsed onto the ground. Roar! A section of the black clouds shrouding Stone Tablet City ignited, then slowly dissipated. The broken-down shadows again condensed into the Ghost Cavalry King's body, only that this time, his body was dim without light, even more feeble than when he had just emerged from the devil-suppressing steel. Su Xing's heart sank when he saw him. He bitterly smiled. The Ghost Cavalry King proved himself to be the formidable character that a generation ago could contend against Emperor Liang. Struck by the 3 arrows' lethal crossbow, the divine ghost had been nearly extinguished, but he still was not completely wiped out. The hearts of everyone present could not help but turn up a feeling of powerlessness. "You damn star generals!" The Ghost Cavalry King's voice was deep and low, a coarse crowing that was also filled with surprise. The Ghost Cavalry King immersed himself in martial arts for several dozen years. He practiced the Ghoul Clan's clan-suppressing devil art, Supreme Ghost Body, to become the Ghoul Clan's absolute genius to stand off against Emperor Liang. He had never experienced the era of a star duel before, and he was only limited to hearsay regarding the famous name of the Liangshan Maidens star generals. Although he had heard of a legend of offering the star generals as a tribute to the gods, the Ghost Cavalry King actually very much felt it beneath his dignity. In his eyes, that was nothing more than the soft-hearted game of women, but this time nevertheless thoroughly shocked him. His Supreme Ghost Body practice to nearly the peak contributed to his indestructible body. Originally, Emperor Liang only relied on the devil-suppressing steel in order to subdue him, and now, the strange killing moves of 2 famous star maidens had almost exterminated the supernatural beings he so meticulously refined. Indeed, it was inconceivable. Up until now, the Ghost Cavalry King had considered himself to understand why he originally heard people called star generals as fiend stars under heaven. The martial arts, unique skills and weapons of these star generals simply were outrageously valiant. However, in Wu Xinjia's eyes, the Ghost Cavalry King was indeed clueless of his own strength. The 5-star generals already exhausted their strength, but this Ghost Cavalry King still had not fallen. This still was a Ghost Cavalry King that lost his arrogance. Breaking away from the devil-suppressing steel, he greedily wanted to consume a star general, yet he was not able to immediately be restored to his peak. "Hey!" The Ghost Cavalry King angrily shouted, raising all of his magic energy. The ghost's god Bane flung into the sky, and a black light circulated. Ghosts converged, and in the blink of an eye, the demon blade formed an imposing and seething evil dragon. The Ghost Cavalry King formed seals with both hands, already determined to consume these star generals to restore himself. 6 paths of reincarnation. Evil dragon swallows the gods. Ghost's god Bane kill. The evil dragon opened its big mouth and screamed as it went to swallow everyone. Su Xing breathed deeply, clutching the profound star barrier to put up one last fight. Just at this moment, a solemn incantation that seemingly came from beyond the 9 firmaments mysteriously and inexorably sounded. That voice was like a Buddhist chant in paradise, yet also like the light-singing ode of the Xian Tu, above the clouds of the 9 firmaments. The words of the voice passed in a disciplined fashion that even the deaf could hear. Stone Tablet City's dark clouds dispersed, the dim light receding. Green light penetrated the black clouds and fell straight into this mundane world. In the blink of an eye, it became a deep black torrential downpour that beat on the evil dragon. The green rain splashed and dispersed, flecking spots of dark light. The imposing fiendish demon dragon immediately underwent repeated lashings and became a black demon saber. But this demon saber was indeed fierce. Even if it had been violently brushed by this green rain, it still unstoppably chopped towards Su Xing. Su Xing. Shi Yuan cried. She threw the devil-suppressing steel, and Su Xing easily caught it. Lifting it, the devil-suppressing steel transformed into an enormous mountain that pressed towards the ghost's god's bane. A loud rumbling sound, the demon saber wailed, and it was executed on these grounds. The devil-suppressing steel released a golden light that immediately severed the demon saber's divine intent. The ghost cavalry king changed, spitting out a mouthful of black fog. His entire spirit void body became even dimmer, just like how a flickering candle could extinguish at any moment in the wind. When the legendary star maidens conducted their star duels, the unconcerned and the like would all withdraw. With this sudden change, the ghost cavalry king even believed he had truly broken a taboo. Though his heart was resentful beyond compare, he knew it was ill-advised to stay for long. Hatefully glancing at Su Xing, the ghost cavalry king did not further dare to delay, turning into a spirit and escaping. Stone Tablet City in a split second dispelled the clouds and saw the sun, restored to clear and bright conditions. We unexpectedly won, Wu Xinjie said blankly. Su Xing, young master. Big brother. A tender shout, and Lin Mei and the rest were too late to be glad they made a narrow escape. Su Xing saw the crisis was averted, and his whole body immediately lost its strength. Only at this time did he feel that all the bones in his body had completely shattered. Not a single one of his muscles or internal organs was intact. This kind of star master that would definitively hand over his life for his star generals made Yanqing moved when she witnessed it. And Su Wen hastily spread medicine to staunch his bleeding, the child and mother linked heart's needles, sticking into several of Su Xing's crucial acupuncture points. Big brother, hang on. The divine physician unceasingly yelled. Su Xing's consciousness was more and more heavy. Through his hazy consciousness, it seemed like he saw a young girl in the sky make a peeping expression from within the clouds. He glimpsed her gracefulness, and then he finally lost consciousness completely. Seeing Su Xing finally could be counted as stable, the girls breathed a sigh of relief. Wu Xinjie had Shi Yuan tidy up the surroundings, and then she looked at the equally utterly weak and vital energy debilitated skillful star. Yanqing, do you want to sign a contract with young master Su Xing? Wu Xinjie asked. If she signed a contract with Su Xing, not only could he completely recover, Yanqing also could restore herself. On the basis of the 3 arrows lethal crossbow that Su Xing moved Yanqing to mobilize just now, she believed Yanqing could not possibly have thoughts of not signing a contract. Yanqing's expression was extremely light. Glancing at Su Xing, she did not at all conceal that she took a liking to him, yet she declined. Yanqing can sign a star duel covenant with anyone, but I cannot contract with him. What do you mean? Lin Mei's beautiful brows rose, indistinctly unhappy. This kind of unhappiness purely originated from her master being rejected. Wu Xinjie did not feel this was out of expectations at all. She thoughtfully smiled. Are you feeling whether or not our master has Lin Chong yet? Yanqing nodded. Su Xing having 4 star generals was already universally shocking. Wu Xinjie laughed. You truly are just as Bao Xiu described, the type that tries to not offend anyone. The knowledge star sighed. The star generals used schemes to find their contractors. Unlike Yanqing, who unexpectedly felt, because Su Xing's star generals were too many in number, that violated established duels, the other star generals would not sign if things were unfair. You have met her? Yanqing's tone was slightly cold. Don't be like this. Wu Xinjie waved her hand. We did not harm the savage star at all. On the contrary, it was she who informed us of your matter of recruiting a master. We heard that you helped refine her weapon to 1 star. Xinjie still is not too convinced, but right now, I am sure of it. You truly are an exceptional sister. Yanqing did not doubt her words. If she was not excessively trusting, the Savage Star still could not possibly inform others of secret matters, such as her star weapon. But to make the Savage Star god of death be this confident in them, the skillful star truly felt that the man in front of her eyes was more and more mysterious. Wu Xinjie then added, "It is out of the question that our master is a good person, but neither is he an unscrupulous person for the sake of the star duels. Perhaps it is because of this that he can contract with we four sisters. Skillful star wanderer Yanqing, if you wish to be chivalrous, then as you wish, but just how many people can you save like this? Besides, you intended to recruit a master, and it may be assumed that you are not a naive person." Yanqing muttered to herself, brooding. Wu Xinjie knew that she need not say any more. Yanqing seemed apathetic and heartless when in fact, her heart was as meticulous as needles. Otherwise, she would not pose a riddle challenge to arrange a Heavenly Star's master recruitment. "Let's quickly leave, strong enemies are approaching," Wu Xinjie called out. "In the event you are willing to become sisters with all of us and wait upon master, then please come with us. If you do not wish so, we will not say anything more. As long as you are not an enemy someday, Yanqing, when we meet, we can still enjoy wine and song. Come for a refined mind of a willow pond locked in smoke." What the knowledge star said seemed sincere and plain when actually, she secretly used enjoy wine and song, as well as the absolute for all eternity, to lock in Yanqing, not worried that she would not be moved. Yanqing was taciturn. Propping her body up, she walked towards a corner. "Little Li Shirshi's appearance was unsightly pale. This servant is very regretful for this affair. This servant must trouble you to use several silvers to console the common people that suffered this calamity." Pausing, Yanqing continued to say, "From now on, please do not use any further the name of Li Shirshir." Li Shirshir inarticulately nodded. Because she deliberately arranged everything, she was not opposed. Seeing a rare peculiarity appear on that cold and detached face of little Yi's, she subconsciously asked, "Little Yi, where are you going?" Yanqing turned her head to look at the backs of Wu Xinjie, and the rest lending their arms to carefully support Su Xing. That worry that hung on the panther head Lin Yingmei was reflected in her eyes. Not only did the majestic star, who never signed a contract, actually sign a contract, she was even concerned about her contractor. All of this made Yanqing feel touched. "Little Yi has already found her master," she lightly answered. A vortex roamed in the sky above Stone Tablet City, the clouds turning and rolling. A nondescript and dust-free girl stretched forward her real body. Those eyes clean to the point of lacking the slightest amount of filth turned. Then she hid into the clouds, escaping towards another place. Soon after, an even more powerful figure descended. Emperor Liang found the fourth prince Zhaoqing huddled in a corner of a park. Seeing the battered and exhausted appearance of his own son, this monarch of the great Liang dynasty's golden age did not say much at all. After Zhaoqing awakened from his fear, he then saw an imposing back on the balcony, wearing a magnificent dragon brocade, adorned with a tasseled golden dragon crown. Although it was only his back, a kind of powerful pressure forced him to sweat profusely. He was precisely the current head of the royal family, Emperor Liang. "Imperial father." Zhaoqing's voice shook. "You have made Imperial father very disappointed." Emperor Liang held both hands behind his back, his voice calm. "Originally, you chose the ghoul's secret arts. We three then knew what you were planning. We were under the impression that you ought to have known you were unable to manage that ghost cavalry king. What a pity, what a pity. This child and subject should die." Zhaoqing was ashamed and uneasy. If it was not for Lin Chang's master, this child and subject in Yanqing would already. "A dispute is a weakling's conduct," Emperor Liang softly said. Zhaoqing immediately closed up his mouth. Defeat is precisely defeat. For words that were light yet resounding and powerful, this child and subject has received instruction. "N. Cutting off your arm shall act as your price. Always remember him. Are you aware of how much trouble the release of supernatural beings can give rise to? However, that is not at all the worst matter. Imperial father was already a monster in those sections. A general achieves renown over the dead bodies of 10,000 soldiers is a natural law. Zhao Qing's pupils spun as he promptly blurted out. A general achieves renown over the dead bodies of 10,000 soldiers. Well said. You have not yet made us completely disappointed. Emperor Liang laughed heartily pleased. Standing on the hall, he tilted his face as he gazed into the distance, overlooking the boundless earth underfoot. He did not know just how many bones of the dead he buried. Just at this time, a star in the sky flickered with crimson light. Zhao Qing saw this scene, and his expression was even more unsightly. That legend at last has begun. Emperor Liang's voice was faintly discernible. 3 clear fields. 5. A flying sword hung in the air, and on the sword was a youth of faintly discernible immortal wind. The immortal's light on his body protected him. 16 quiet and secluded immortals' swords 6 formed a powerful sword array nearby. The youth calmly directly shot this crimson star. Lifeless Hall's 6 paths summit. A black-haired man holding a black steel épée stopped his sword dance as he raised his head. In front of a not well-known discarded palace, the immortal hero princess Gong Kaiwei sat on the halls and slightly looked up. The resourceful strategist Zhu Wu slightly lifted her eyes. Zhao Hanyan and the steadfast star Dong Junqing also continuously gazed at that newly born crimson star. At this very moment, all living things under heaven each lifted their heads to look up. The Holy Lord of Draconic Demon left the divining star platform perfectly contented, a purple-marked jade pendant already in his hand. The crimson star in the sky was dazzling, and he burst into loud laughter. Has the birth outline finally begun? First volume, Liangshan Outlaw's End. 1 month after the opening of the birth outline. Southern Yu Kingdom. North Earth County 2 outskirts below Whistling Wind Mountain. 3. Several hundred people had assembled at this ordinarily not at all eye-catching and small kingdom's mountain range at this time. Several pavilion tea clubs sat down, many men and women of all ages wearing robes from every which sect. Breaking them down, there unexpectedly were 15 sects. However, these sects were not that popular in the Azure Dragon territory, nor could they stack up against those with good reputations. They talked and laughed, joyous and harmonious, but among the laughter was a vaguely exposed trace of murderous intent. At this time, a wooden boat flew into the sky. When they saw that wooden boat, everyone's eyes carried a thread of unhappiness. The wooden raft descended, and a man and 5 women walked down. All of the cultivators stared blankly. They saw 5 young women with the countenance of flowers, faces like the moon, their temperaments each with their own merits. Seeing that youngster among them move unhurriedly, one look at the 5 girls crowding around him was enough to show they served this youth. Whistling Wind Mountain's 100 cultivators clamored for a moment, each showing bewilderment. The man and 5 women did not wear robes, and they did not know either if this was some small sex or some aristocratic family's child. They soon after did not think of this any further. After the birth outline commenced, small gangs that ordinarily would not show their faces, all revealing their talents, were not at all strange. Surprisingly, there's this many people here. The youth was speechless looking at the people everywhere on this mountain. Hee, young master. The birth outline happens once every 100 years, who would miss it? A girl carrying a lovely expression lightly laughed. Is there a sister here? Another girl curiously scanned looked all over the surroundings. You honor do not attract attention. The result will become apparent when the birth outline arrives. Oh, this group naturally was Su Xing and his 5-star maidens. Master, please take a seat. The skillful star that was still accustomed to her maid's skirt found a seat at the tea stand. Little E, you don't need to be this way. Just treat me as a big brother or something like that, alright? Su Xing looked at Yin Qing's reverent and respectful service as something he was somewhat not used to. Wu Xinjie rolled her eyes. This young master of hers really was fond of little sisters. 5. This is servant's duty. Little E said very seriously. Su Xing looked at the girl's meticulous manner, her distracted expression. It seemed as if she had once again returned to how she was initially. In the miserable battle that day in Stone Tablet City, there was not a single piece of good flesh in Su Xing's whole body. He originally thought that he would need several months to recover, but who would have imagined when he opened his eyes the next day, his body was already fully recovered. After he rose, the skillful star Yanqing stood guard at his side. After she used the 3 arrows lethal crossbow, she was very much off. Her complexion was also very wrong, yet she was resolute and firm. Only after he heard from Wuxia did he understand that, during the time he was unconscious, Yanqing and he already signed a star dual covenant. The contract possessed an unexpected recovery effect, thus, his serious injuries could heal so quickly. It was just that what Wuxia did not foresee was that the skillful star Yin Asian 6 was not only cold on the outside and warm on the inside, but also that she actually was too dedicated to her work. She was determined to stay close to Su Xing during the time he had not yet awakened. Even Lin Yingmei shivered when she saw those cold vermilion pupils. In the end, it was only when Su Xing gave the order that she entered the star nest to self-cultivate. When he saw that Yin Yizhen was still standing to the side, Su Xing shook his head and pulled her hand to make her sit down. At this moment, Wu Xinjie already finished examining the 100 cultivators. She did not find any of the 10 great sects. Southern Yu Kingdom was located in a remote area, so it could be assumed that was very difficult to arouse the attention of a great sect in this sort of place. I heard a month ago, the great Liang dynasty's Stone Table City was blockaded by dark clouds. The rumor is that the ghost cavalry king appeared in the flesh. Would you say that's true or not? Several chatting cultivators suddenly said this, their voices not loud, but sufficient enough to make everyone present hear them. Asking his question, the other 100 bored-to-death cultivators widely discussed. It is definitely true. Each of Liangshan continent's great sects have already gone insane. Tisk tsk. They say the ghost cavalry king possesses an undying evil art. 7. It seems everything under heaven will be in a great upheaval. Great upheaval, my ass. This ghost cavalry king was already no longer brave, as he was in those days. Reportedly, Emperor Liang personally appeared and eliminated him with a sword, damn it. 8. Truly useless. A Buddhist monk with a shiny cranium drank wine from his bottle gourd, his drunken face red. He wore a somewhat tattered blue kasaya. Carrying a string of Buddhist beads he flicked through. A Vajra staff leaned against his chair. And watching him drink wine and consume meat, he actually was a monk of wine and meat. His cultivation of galaxy early stage was considered very high. And to speak of it, he was quite powerful. A priest of the Blue Jewel Temple. 9. Wu Xinjie whispered. Blue Jewel Temple. The central plains of the Azure Dragon territory were dominated by the 10 great sects, long without soil that attained enlightenment. Actually, it was said that the Dharma flourished in the Azure Dragon territory's western regions, the burning incense luxuriant. It was just that the western regions were too far, so running away to here was very rare. Su Xing nodded, secretly sizing him up. This wine and meat monk's face was rough, his brows like swords, rather a bit somewhat venting his anger. What inside story has Great Master Wine and Meat heard of? A star cultivator curiously asked. It seemed that this monk was very well known here, right? Emperor Liang originally could only suppress him, so how did he manage to kill him this time? Great Master Wine and Meat's nostrils blew out air, and he proudly said, this great master heard that the ghost cavalry king was really out of luck this time. He was deliberately released by someone, and I heard that person wanted to kill him purely because he felt irked by the sight of the ghost cavalry king. Nonsense. An elderly man coldly said. With how powerful ghost cavalry king is, who would be this unafraid of death? Let's see you say it. Haha. Need I say it? Of course it was the Purple Thunder Monster. Monk Wine and Meat laughed. Purple Thunder Monster. An uproar appeared inside the tea club. Shi Yuan went pfft. And she winked at Su Xing. Su Xing was helpless. He had never thought that the Purple Thunder Monster title would unexpectedly diffuse to the Southern Yu Kingdom. However, this Monk Wine and Meat's words attracted Su Xing's interest. The birth outline began after that day in Stone Tablet City, and Su Xing never paid attention, as all his thoughts were on cultivation. The Purple Thunder Monster? The purple monster that signed Lin Chong, you say? The old man was shocked. Who else could it be? Really, this ghost cavalry king. It is said that his divine soul was nearly entirely extinguished by the monster before he finally fled. Emperor Liang then eliminated him. I hear that Emperor Liang even invited him to enter the palace for a commendation as appreciation. What a pity he continually receives no reply. However, according to what this great master knows, this invitation perhaps harbors evil intentions. That devil-suppressing steel has already been snatched away by the purple thunder monster, and I fear the people searching for him are not few. Monk Wine and Meat laughed heartily. Inside the stand was the sound of people sucking in cold air. This kind of rare Buddhist treasure that was the devil-suppressing steel had unexpectedly been taken away, and for Emperor Liang to not have slaughtered him was strange. Just what is the background of this purple thunder monster? Contracting the legendary Lin Chong, and even daring to commit offenses against the great Liang's great sex. He is too unbridled. Since it's the monster, what's strange about that? They say that the Ghost Cavalry King has a devil weapon, the Ghost's God Bane. Emperor Liang would have taken it away when he died. This who knows? It cannot be said for sure that the Purple Thunder monster took away Ghost's God Bane, and only then letting the Ghost Cavalry King go afterwards. Monk Wine and Meat was somewhat intoxicated. Good gracious! If the Purple Thunder monster suppressed him to obtain this devil cult divine weapon, it seems he is the second demonic head. Ha ha! The birth outline has started, so we had better be careful. Heaven knows whether or not the Purple Thunder monster will find us. So true. The Purple Thunder monster, Su Xing, who heard these rumors, really did not know whether he should laugh or cry. Wu Xingjie moved close to him, her chest pushing against his arm. Her lilac tongue licked the entrance to his ear, her charming voice whispering, "Right now, young Lord Tin truly is someone that will scare people on sight." Su Xing patted Wu Xingjie's savory butt, hinting her to be a bit more decent. Wu Xingjie's face turned red, and she flirtatiously stared at him. Yan Yizhen was vaguely indifferent towards these two. That monk has taken notice several times. It is somewhat ill in intent. If he seeks death, then we shall help him. Shi Yuan coldly said. But what about Big Brother's devil-suppressing steel and Ghost's God Bane? It seems it will draw a very big trouble. And Suan said quietly, for these two kinds of items, the former was a stone steel of the right path, and the latter was the divine weapon of a devil cult. One was right and the other evil, but both had unexpectedly fallen into Su Xing's hands. Now perhaps the Blooming Water Sword sect would be laughing mad. Even if they did not need the alliance of Tin Chase to kill, it possessed the restlessness of a great sect. It may be trouble, but he isn't lacking for this. Wu Xingjie disapproved. These two treasures were indeed the spoils of war she made a narrow escape to obtain. Sending them back without good cause was simply a pipe dream. The surrounding cultivators chatted all the more joyously, and they began to discuss who in the star duels could be dubbed outstanding heroes. Just look at how those great sects will show their strength in this birth outline. Monk Wine and Meat played the profound thinker. I see the most high path Xie Yuan as fully deserving, without reservations. Princess Ling Yan of the True Immortals Hall 11 is also very promising, and she is even Emperor Liang's daughter. She has imperial backing, and the star generals these two signed reportedly have exceedingly powerful military force. Isn't Lifeless Hall's Yin Wudao a monster? With cultivation even higher than Xie Yuan's, at Galaxy late stage. Damn it, we practiced how many decades, and still haven't reached as high as that child did in 3 years. The way I see it, the victor is among these three. It cannot be said for sure if the Vermilion Bird territory, or the Black Turtle territory, also have formidable Star Master. They chatted quite vigorously, and a displeased Shi Yuan interrupted them. Then what about Lin Chong's young master? Seeing them this confident, Shi Yuan unhappily yelled. He could sign a contract with Lin Chong. But could it be that he has no hope? Everyone stared blankly. Then they laughed uproariously. Although the Purple Thunder monster has signed Lin Chong, it seems he definitely is not part of any sections. As a result, he handles his affairs in this way that pleases himself. And it's only the second phase, yet he is showing off like this. This kind of star master often dies the quickest. Shi Yuan refused to accept that as final. Yuaner. Su Xing shook his head. Shi Yuan harumphed, then sat down. At this moment, a languid voice suddenly interjected. The way I see it, Maybe this purple thunder monster just could obtain victory. The one who spoke was a graceful young lady wearing a flax short skirt, boots, a cloak, and she had green hair. One hand grasped a stick, the other held wine. The skin of her thighs was a satiny snow white that would make others drool. As a result of the star duel's beginning stages, young girls simply just became the most dangerous existences. At first glance, Su Xing even thought she was a star general, but he saw her cultivation was also nebula middle stage. Why do you say so? Monk Wine and Meat asked. Truly stupid. The purple thunder monster is very good at changing appearances. It is said he has more than a dozen faces. How could such a careful person be said to be a show-off? In addition, which of the matters he encountered would not make Yin Wudao, Xie Yuan, Princess Ling Yan, and the rest see only his dust without hope of catching up? Fighting alone cannot overcome every situation. Monk Wine and Meat grunted. The more you all underestimate him, I-12, will be even more full of confidence in him. It's a pity that the star duels cannot be gambled upon, otherwise I would suffocate. The girl sweetly smiled. Because she was slightly tipsy and red in the cheeks, she was extremely cute. Everyone stared blankly, as they were left speechless by the girl. Monk Wine and Meat chuckled, a radiance flashing in his eyes. He said, This great master sees that you must be one of the legendary star generals? The green-haired girl put up her slender and beautiful legs. That faintly discernible sight made the blood vessels of the people watching spray open. The girl blinked, and she lifted one corner of her mouth in a smile. I am a star general. Do you have the ability to subdue me? As far as I can see from what I have read ahead, it seems the Ghost Cavalry King truly was killed off-screen. I don't know if he may make a reappearance. Right arrow curving left 9. Right arrow curving left 10. Previously was young master. Right arrow curving left 11. Welp, there you go. She is the apparent strongest child of the strongest emperor, and is currently a disciple of the strongest institution in all the land. No wonder she is so haughty. Haughty, get it? Right arrow curving left 12. Generally means people, but is uncommonly used as I. The atmosphere all of a sudden became heavy. Monk Wine and Meat stood up with a swish. That pair of large eyes the size of bells stared at the Star Maiden, his nostrils huffing. Not only he, but more than a dozen star cultivators also rose, their Adam's apples bobbing, restraining their emotions. Su Xing looked at this small tea house. Regardless of who they were, everyone was hungry like a wolf. Star generals, even if they did not have the qualifications to contract with this kind of legend, they heard that killing a star general could also be a great supplement, even allowing them to enter Maiden Mountain. The green-haired girl's elegant legs bounced, drinking wine with one hand and holding a stick in the other. Her appearance was undisciplined, seemingly as if she did not care a single bit. Hi, could that young lord fill this pot of wine for me? The maiden raised her empty wine pot, drunkenly smiling at Su Xing. She threw the pot over, and Su Xing caught it. He was speechless. Seeing her hold a stick in one hand and love wine this much, was it possible she was Wu Song? Su Xing thought, and he filled it for her. Monk Wine and Meat abruptly laughed out loud, and the nervous atmosphere where anything could happen at any moment was completely eliminated following this powerful and free laugh. Monk Wine and Meat was not stupid, and he looked at the young lady in front of him calmly. That leisurely and calm attitude showed he knew that she must have concealed some kind of trick she was self-confident of. Perhaps she had some benefactor. Monk Wine and Meat looked at Su Xing's table, cupping his fist. This benefactor really can play a joke. How would a star general ever concede herself? If she truly did concede, then we very much cannot afford to offend her. The other cultivators promptly nodded in praise, and everyone sat down as if nothing had happened. Would your benefactor like to have a taste of this poor Taoist's pot of simmer-fried knife cutlets? Sure. The girl smiled. When Su Xing saw this, he returned the bottle gourd to her. Thanks. The girl was somewhat drunk, looking at Su Xing with hazy eyes. This girl is very bold, Wu Xinjie said in a low voice. She's a star general? Su Xing asked. The knowledge star shook her head. She could not use think then act lest she expose herself. She is this calm and undaunted. Regardless of whether it is true or false, other people would be somewhat afraid of the consequences. I did not expect there would be such a frivolous sister. Oh, Su Xing looked pensively. Everyone proceeded to resume their former manner, but their gazes incessantly wandered to the green-haired girl's graceful and delicate body, the beautiful and satiny legs underneath her skirt. The people watching began to stir. Another moment passed, and several more groups of people successively hurried to Whistling Wind Mountain. A crowd of 500 to 600 were at the foot of the mountain, and among them was a dazzling sect riding on a patch of green cloud. They wore black robes, grasped flying swords with jade necklaces around their heads. After this group appeared, the initially relaxed 100 cultivators one by one became nervous and uneasy, the atmosphere somewhat agitated. The big cloud descended to the ground, and more than 50 star cultivators unexpectedly appeared. All the cultivators' faces immediately were somewhat uncomfortable. Yet another bunch that overestimates their own capabilities. The leader was an old man with hair that went past his knees. He wore a crown of lapis lazuli, his expression sharp. When he saw the 500 to 600 star cultivators, he could not help but be somewhat annoyed. Su Xing noted his cultivation was at Galaxy Middle Stage. This was the highest cultivation level on Whistling Wind Mountain, so it was no wonder he was so haughty. You scattered star cultivators. I do not know which small sects ran here, but it is best for you to tactfully depart for this kind of matter, as plundering the birth outline. 3. As swords do not have eyes. This is to avoid injuring all you fellows. At the old man's side was a female cultivator, wearing a blue skirt that spoke. At that time, it would be hard to say. All the black-clothed cultivators exerted their magic energy, and Whistling Wind Mountain's atmosphere condensed. A few cultivators with lower-grade cultivations instantly turned and left, but the majority of the star cultivators remained where they were, quite irked as they looked at this crowd of black-clothed cultivators. Regardless of life and death, rely on fate and good luck. Riches and honor absolutely will not save people. There is no second chance if we miss this once-in-a-100-year opportunity. So what carelessness is there to be afraid of? A male cultivator's heroism was in the clouds. His declaration received a right from everyone. Right my ass. Monk Wine and Meat abruptly cursed. A smile appeared across his whole face. Ancestor Chingy, why have even you come? Monk Wine and Meat, sorry, I did not recognize you. Ancestor Chingy had very good etiquette, even though Monk Wine and Meat's cultivation was lower than his. Indeed, this senior monk of the Blue Jewel Temple was capable of monstrous abilities, and Ancestor Chingy did not wish to offend him any further. The Black Clothes School is just 500 li outside of Whistling Wind Mountain. Are we not welcome to come? Ha. It would be better for us to join hands, how about it? This way is very good. Ancestor Chingy nodded. Go over there and chat. He pointed to a corner, and several disciples unfolded immortals' tables, placing fine liquor and delicacies upon them. Monk Wine and Meat was very delighted, devouring these without a trace of politeness. The two began to quietly say a few things, and Su Xing did not mind. Seeing the overcrowded Whistling Wind Mountain, there was already much disharmony. Thinking back to the battle for the birth outline a month ago, 5. He could not help but lament that he was unclear on who the Liangshan maiden was. But this method of sowing dissension was indeed superb. The birth outline was the second phase of the Maiden Mountain Star duels, and it was the most crucial phase. This phase would start when the number of crimson stars in the sky exceeded half the total. This type of starting indication would be a splendid light that would descend onto that pillar of heaven and earth of Maiden Mountain. Afterwards, 108 chests would shoot in all directions. 6. These chests were bright and multicolored and extremely gorgeous. Because of the demon beasts, demon weapons, and the like transporting them, the destination of transport was reportedly at the ends of the world. In addition, during this transportation process, the star generals needed to plunder these chests. Inside these chests was hidden every sort of rare goods in Liangshan continent, from gold, treasures, and precious stones to artifacts, magic weapons, and even astral treasures. Each and every kind of materials were included, but especially those pertaining to advancing the grade of the Star General's star weapons. Some of these approached materials from legend, and prospectors could only rely on the birth outline chests to obtain them. The star generals wanted to refine their star weapons to even higher grades, without the possibility of arming their star master to the teeth. So the importance of this birth outline went without saying. The transported chests of the birth outline altogether were divided into the 3 ranks of earthly fiend, heavenly spirit, and purple star. The higher the grade of the transported chest, the more powerful the demon beast transporting it. However, the things inside the chest would also be better. As far as star generals were concerned, the most important birth treasure outline was inside the purple star grade chest. Reportedly, it was not known within which generation, but there previously was someone that obtained from within the birth outline chest a life-extending immortality peach. 7. That threw the entire Liangshan into a frenzy. The current birth outline not only was a contest of a star general against another star general, it was also a struggle between every large sect and scattered star cultivator. As long as there was that little bit of ambition or vanity, people would not miss this feast. This many star cultivators wanting to get a share of the profits is actually somewhat disagreeable. Shi Yuan said directly. Su Xing indifferently said, if only the chest this time was of heavenly spirit grade. In the 1 month since the birth outline opened, Su Xing and Wu Xinjie relied on the flight path of the multicolored light to judge on more than one occasion the position of where it had come to a stop to plunder the chest. Unfortunately, up until now, they had opened 5 chests, and all were the not-so-troublesome at all earthly fiend rank. What they obtained for the most part was gold, purple gold and such. The sole exceptional items were more than a dozen liang of relic blade sand, and 2 pieces of falling mercury crystal. They were still off by 1 piece to refine Wu Xinjie's heaven-concealing star fan to 1 star. Another while passed, then a cultivator began to yell, "It's coming!" Shwa shwa shwa. The cultivators in the crowded room immediately rode their swords if they were able to, laid in wait if they were able to, and the tea club very quickly was left with few people. Su Xing looked at that green-haired girl still intoxicated in good wine, and he could not help laughing. Su Xing and the rest rose and walked out the door. Boarding the wind-swayed raft into the sky, he glanced at the black-clothed school, and they also unfolded their green cloud. From far away, they saw a dazzling radiance, a sparkling silver, exceptionally glaring. It's a heavenly spirit-grade birth outline. Shi Yuan gazed into the distance, pleasantly surprised as she spoke. I wonder whether or not there will be a birth treasure outline, 9 this time. And Suan said, I fear the chest this time will not be that simple. Su Xing saw the black-clothed school's people already spread their people into a formation. Ancestor Qingyi was also very red in the face from looking at the heavenly spirit-grade chest. The closer the treasure light, the defender transporting the birth outline also entered the eyes of everyone. That was a shockingly long line of troops, following a tremendous demon bird carrying the case on its back, and the surroundings also had 100 flocks of birds. Numerous and close together, they were just like a white cloud. As the birth outline was increasingly close, who would not think first of profiting off the first person who acted? The competition of plundering the birth outline was one of patience. Finally, the first one unable to endure any further made a move, and several sword artifacts went over to pound it. The demon bird flock scattered in fright, and the 100 demon birds guarding it began to frantically attack the surrounding people. Then ray after ray of radiant light soared to kill. The demon bird spat out silver light, and mingling together with the 100 flying swords. The silver light was incomparably sharp, a blade that ripped open space. Many star cultivators' defenses were shredded, just as if they were paper bits. The ones with the lower cultivation, the most inferior artifacts, were the first to be incapable of supporting themselves. The star cultivators that came to rob and kill all had objectives. They could not possibly let low-grade star cultivators take possession of a convenience, and waiting until the dead ones died, the escaping ones escaped. Only then would they exert their own powers. Lay down the heavenly green fatal blow array. 10 Ancestor Qingyi shouted, and 12 dark green flying swords mobilized. The galaxy middle stage cultivator's skill was extraordinary, as the 12 flying swords were like an unstoppable force, immediately breaking the silver light. The huge demon bird carrying the birth outline was known as the Scarlet Crane. 11. Its entire body had flames that madly swelled, and with a long cry, its fire wings were released. Flames like unsheathed sharp swords shot in every which direction. 56 star cultivators screamed. Their chests had been run through, and the black-clothed school made their formation. Monk wine and meat also could no longer sit to the side. Linking together seals, the Vajra staff was thrown out. The staff was shrouded in a Buddhist light, and the flames were dispersed one after another. Then it attacked the Scarlet Crane. The tremendous bird opened its beak, and a fire snake shot out. Hey! Monk wine and meat's entire body was covered in gold light, and it was not known what ability he used to firmly block the fire snake. Ancestor Chingy struck hand seals, forming the 12 flying swords into a sword array to kill it. Upon seeing this, the bottom disciples lowered their pressure, immediately reorganizing their array. The Scarlet Crane suddenly incited fire wings, the gigantic waves of fire burning everyone present, making Whistling Wind Mountain's trees burn to ash. Ancestor Chingy threw out that green cloud artifact to block this calamity for his disciples, at the same time shouting, "Other fellows, if you wish to cooperate, we can divide this birth outline equally. If you wish to loot a burning house, do not blame me for being ruthless." These words of Ancestor Chingy's plainly were said to those few high-grade star cultivators, who delayed entering the fray, until all the others were exhausted, so they could profit from others. Ancestor Chingy's tone was emphasized specifically as he stared at Su Xing's group. "Young master, shall we go?" Lin Yingmei asked. "I alone will be enough. I don't need to waste you all on this kind of matter. You'd better wait until a purple star-grade chest appears again." Su Xing currently still did not want to inadvertently warn the enemy. "I see Senior seems to not need me to set out." Su Xing flew somewhere not far from him. This fellow truly can tell jokes. Yet the heavenly spirit grade birthday outline is such a good thing to plunder. Ancestor Chingy said grimly. Just at this time, the Scarlet Crane cried out loudly. Its entire body's wings became flames, and 100 fire birds immediately appeared. That is also true. Su Xing tossed out the heaven sword, slashing towards the Scarlet Crane. Just during the time everyone was plundering and killing the fiery Scarlet Crane, the green-haired girl in the tea club made a perfectly contented belch. She tipsily walked out, actually exposing a crafty smile as she stared at the battle in the sky. The black-clothed schools formed a fatal blow-grade array. Green swords shot into and filled the sky, and the fire birds were dispersed one after the other. Su Xing's heaven sword suffered an injury at Stone Tablet City. This nebula magic treasure already split open, and although its aura steeply declined, its remaining strength still made Ancestor Chingy and Monk Wine and Meat endlessly shocked. The Scarlet Crane received the heaven sword slash, immediately crying out. The flames that it spared no effort to shoot out of its body transformed into an immense net of fire. This demon beast was of the 5th rank, and everyone did not dare to touch the fire net it controlled. The cultivators below were doomed, and in the 100 meters the net of fire covered, a few star cultivators that ran too late were immediately turned to ashes. Many of Black Clothes School's disciples were among them. Ancestor Chingy grimaced in pain when he saw it. The Black Clothes School in southern Yu Kingdom was only a small sect, and these casualties were hard to bear. Ancestor Chingy's 16 flying swords then attacked the Scarlet Crane's true fire. Su Xing at this time did not dare be careless, for a 5th-rank demon beast could not be neglected. Releasing the Earth Shield to stop the blaze, he also controlled the Heaven Sword to go slash. Under the assault of 100 cultivators, the Scarlet Crane's blaze was increasingly weak. Just at this time, a fire cloud 100 li away combusted and fell. Unexpectedly, it was another heavenly spirit rank birth outline that just was transported from here. The attention of the cultivators that were robbing and killing the Scarlet Crane immediately were drawn to that fire cloud, and staring at it, it surprisingly was a scarlet dragon. The Scarlet Crane and Scarlet Dragon were fire-type demon beasts. The Scarlet Crane was killed from every direction, and when the firelight exploded, It attracted the not-too-distant scarlet dragon. Su Xing looked, and could not help but think. Originally, he was unable to find a heavenly spirit-grade birth outline. And luckily this time, two have come. Fellows, immediately kill this scarlet crane first. Ancestor Qingyi shouted loudly, throwing out a long ruler. The ruler rolled out a green light that went to strike down the scarlet crane. Su Xing knew how serious things were, and he released the blood rain pot. Even if monk wine and meat loudly read an incantation, he still tossed it at the same time. This is bad. Lin Yingmei's expression tightened. Let's first go help young master stop the scarlet dragon. Wu Xinjie immediately said. Yin Yizhen and Lin Yingmei took the lead to go attack it. The scarlet dragon's speed was exceedingly quick, leaping over in the blink of an eye. This place was a deep basin without cultivators. The two girls completely lacked restraint, and the Arctic Star Spear sallied forth. Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen each forged ahead. The majestic star coldly shouted, and the Arctic Star Spear was brought down, its spearhead flickering with a cold light. A chilly wind immediately gusted up. When the scarlet dragon saw this, its eyes showed a fearful expression, but an ominous glint immediately flashed. Greatly releasing red light from its body, its mouth issued a severe hiss, spitting out a sea of flames. The vicinity around Lin Yingmei's whole body immediately was surrounded in a sea of fire. In the fire dragon's hiss, flames rolled out incessantly. After that, it scraped out a more than 10 zhang high immense sea of fire that aggressively approached from both sides to directly press down on Lin Yingmei. Lin Yingmei disdainfully chuckled coldly. She raised the Arctic Star Spear with both hands, the spear's power lightly splitting. During the cold light's flash, a sparkling and translucent ice wall suddenly appeared. The cold light on it twinkled endlessly, all of a sudden rigidly blocking the scarlet dragon's sea of fire. In addition, just at this time, the faraway scarlet dragon's figure suddenly flashed, becoming a red light that made a beeline for Lin Yingmei. Its speed was quick, spanning a distance of more than 20 zhang in the blink of an eye, arriving nearby in front of Lin Yingmei. At the same time, its two claws were simultaneously raised, tearing towards the girl. A silhouette then blocked in front of it. The skillful star closed the distance in a flash. The violently shot red light of her fists unexpectedly slammed against the scarlet dragon's claws, and the flames soared into the sky. The star energy in Yin Yizhen's whole body immediately became a self-protective barrier. With a step, she crossed over, already reaching the scarlet dragon's upper part. Her fists wildly danced. Yin Yizhen was just like a phantom, her silhouette all of a sudden indistinct, the next moment disappearing from sight. A sharp whistle came through the surrounding air. The dust in the air were rolled up layer upon layer by this high-speed wind pressure that ripped apart the atmosphere. Revolving all around the scarlet dragon's massive body, left and right fists endlessly pounded it, but it actually did not carry a trace of sound. The scarlet dragon violently attacked incessantly, yet that did not have the slightest effect. Suddenly at this time, Lin Yingmei's figure appeared before the scarlet dragon's eyes. Slashing with her cold spear, she directly hit the scarlet dragon's pupil. The spear light bit everything to dust as it entered the eye, and the scarlet dragon bellowed. Unexpectedly, a lump of flame burst out and completely shrouded the two where they stood. Wu Xinjie, Shi Yuan, and Ensuan were startled, hastily rushing over to support. Wu Xinjie tossed out talismans, and Shi Yuan quickly shot out her hoodwinking flying claws. Ensuan took out a golden pill, and the pill transformed into a watery liquid that went to press against the blaze. On the other side, the scarlet crane was finally unable to support itself under the violent assault of everyone. Ancestor Qingyi's sword art executed, and a green light turned into 10,000 swords that penetrated the scarlet crane. The scarlet crane made a mournful sound, the treasure chest on its body, then was thrown off from its back and fell. After that, the scarlet crane's body swelled into a tremendous fire that enveloped the entire Whistling Wind Mountain inside a conflagration. Soon afterwards, it was cut short, and not even its soul was left behind. When every cultivator saw the treasure chest, they immediately squabbled for it. Flying sword abilities wildly smashed towards the treasure chest, and several of the nearest star cultivators, had not even touched the treasure chest when they lost their lives. As far as plundering the birth outline was concerned, compared with the danger of killing and robbing the demon beast transporting the birth outline, the current danger had only just begun. All fellows calm. Ancestor Qingyi wielded his cultivation at the highest levels and shouted. He pressured everyone present. Who of the 100 cultivators would bother to oblige him? In case this treasure chest was swallowed by someone, they had to be willing to spit it back out. Ancestor Qingyi sneered. Then just do not blame Ancestor for being ruthless. Disciples kill. The black-clothed school disciples shouted orders, and sword lights danced in the breeze. Every one of the scattered star cultivators successively used their unique skills, filling Whistling Wind Mountain with countless sword slights in an instant. Su Xing wrinkled his brow, and he flew his body to the side. Upon seeing this, Monk Wine and Meat and Ancestor Qingyi hastily flew towards the treasure chest. Ancestor Qingyi wielded his cultivation at the highest, using a sword art to go kill at Su Xing. Fellow, it is better to let Ancestor divide things. Monk Wine and Meat's staff was also thrown over. Su Xing controlled his divine intent, and the Heaven Sword and Earth Shield obstructed their attacks. Just at this time, the chest's treasure lights suddenly disappeared from their sight. The currently battling cultivators one after another went blank, shouting in amazement. They saw a green-haired girl leisurely roll away the treasure chest with a roll of her hand. The girl's body techniques were extremely strange, just like an illusion that unhurriedly disappeared from sight. I have received this thing. The girl turned her head and made a crooked smile. More than a dozen flying swords shot towards her, but the girl disappeared in a flash, reappearing 100 meters above and away. Everyone was stunned. That is the inferior star living goddess of lightning. 3. She sure enough is a star general. Monk Wine and Meat's whole body trembled in anger. Chase! Ancestor Qingyi chased after her. How could he be resigned to letting others pick up the treasure chest he spent so much blood for? He no longer paid attention to the other heavenly spirit chest 100 li away. Su Xing also wanted to go chase, but seeing that side, he still could only give up. The speed of the inferior star living goddess of lightning, when she moved in that instant, was too quick, so chasing would not be that relaxing. Su Xing was just flying over to there, when he saw more than a dozen star cultivators raise their swords, wanting to seize the opportunity to take a share of the profits. Su Xing's brow wrinkled, and then he blocked in front of them. How could these star cultivators be Su Xing's opponent? Immediately, they were defeated and escaped without a trace. Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen were currently besieging the Scarlet Dragon. The Scarlet Dragon's firelight started to wane, and when Su Xing saw this, he struck hand seals as he read an incantation. Blooming water divine thunder bubbled forth, dancing between his fingers. Along with Su Xing condensing it even more, this lightning also was increasingly concentrated. In the blink of an eye, Su Xing's 5 fingers were all purple-colored thunderlight. Su Xing released it, and from his 5 fingers shot 5 bolts of purple thunder that firmly grabbed the Scarlet Dragon. This was exactly the first blooming water divine thunder immortal's technique that he learned from the 5 Spirits Law heavenly book, 5 Fingers Dragon Capture. Launching the blooming water divine thunder from his fingers, it was just like a large hand that was even more mighty than when he fired normal divine thunder, and it could constrict his opponents. Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen saw that the Scarlet Dragon had been bound and used their yellow rank unique skills without the slightest hesitation. Lawn Blizzard Knights and Swallowflash Samsara. Under the pincer attack of the two, the Scarlet Dragon also turned into a pile of sparks that faded away. The Heavenly Spirit treasure chest fell, and Su Xing bluntly drew it into his sack. Young Lord, what about the other? Wu Xingji asked. Su Xing was helpless. That girl from before seems to be the living goddess of lightning. It was taken away by her. Living goddess of lightning? Lin Yingmei stared blankly. The ranked 104th inferior star living goddess of lightning Wang Dinglu 5 unexpectedly took away the heavenly spirit chest from the countless star cultivators. This was too amazing. The speed of the living goddess of lightning flash jump 6 is very swift. To be capable of high-speed movement, to hide from pursuers is very simple. Yin Yizhen flatly said. Wu Xinjie agreed with the skillful star's words. They will not be able to catch up to her. We had better return first. Saying this, the knowledge star saw this wound-filled whistling wind mountain and sighed. This still only is a remote location in the southern Yu Kingdom, so I did not expect to have this much trouble. The situation of the purple star-grade birth outline is grim. Now in all parts of the Azure Dragon territory, all currently were staging the drama of a battle for the birth outline. On a boundless ravine, an immense demon beast bearing a heavenly spirit-grade treasure chest currently was violently attacking. A beautiful and alluring girl in palace dress was facing off with it, her hand grasping a long axe. Firelight curled on the axe, engraved with a fire kite, 7 twinkling with 3 stars. Standing at the girl's side was an additional elegant man. His surroundings were already piled full with more than 100 corpses black as coal. It was unexpected for this place to have this mini-star cultivators come trouble eye of the palace. The man was precisely the second prince, Zhao Heng. He wiped his hands, smiled and asked, Qing Shuang, can you settle it? The girl nodded, raising her long axe. With a sharp and mournful howl, the entire prairie's temperature suddenly dropped. An ice-cold imposing aura enveloped the entire space in a flash, and sparkling and translucent ice crystals suddenly appeared in the air, rapidly expanding in every direction, also dispersing a terrifying cold air. That immense demon beast immediately spat out a frigid ice breath. Zhao Heng stared blankly. This demon beast's whole body turned a blue color. The ice breath it spat out seemed simple, but when it came across skin, the victim's mental state would be in piercing pain. This type of piercing pain would completely influence a person's instinct. It proved itself to be a 5th demon beast. The girl already rapidly forced it into a limit. The air's moisture turned to ice crystals in a flash, let alone the flesh and blood of human bodies? This kind of demon beast very much was valiant. The girl sneered. The axe head curled up with a fiery dragon. 3 dazzling fire stars flickered. A tiny demon beast spits out an ice breath and dares to be impudent in front of the palace? The girl held up the axe head, hacking with it mid-slash. The axe head's fiery dragon roared, immediately engulfing the entire valley. The ignited raging blaze was more and more roaring, as if the entire valley had turned into a coal pan, a terrifying anomaly. Yellow rank style. 100,000 fire dragons rapid kill. 9. The huge beast unexpectedly became ashes. Zhao Heng nodded in satisfaction, revealing a slight smile. With this kind of powerful strength, even if it was a 5 tigers general, they would not be an opponent, he thought. What about Yuan? Only when Su Xing turned his head back did he discover the thief star had disappeared. I even saw little sister Shi Yuan here just now. And Suan covered her mouth. The thief star was a concealment expert. If she wanted to noiselessly leave, that was not something that would be hard for her. It seems she has gone to chase after the living goddess of lightning. Lin Yingmei answered. Su Xing pulled his hair. Could it be that Shi Yuan wanted to snatch back the heavenly spirit chest? The flea on a drum actually is very formidable in pursuits, so she should be able to find the living goddess of lightning's trail. Wu Xinjie blinked. Everyone waited for a while, and not long after, the thief star returned as expected. But it seems she hung her head dispiritedly. That living goddess of lightning is too much for me. It was very difficult to find her, and then she unexpectedly played hide and seek with me. She probably had been unbearably angered by the inferior star's flash jump. Shi Yuan puffed her cheeks as she clung to Su Xing's arm, acting like a spoiled child as she sought comfort. Wu Xinjie dipped her forehead. Don't vent, let's quickly leave. Powerful enemies again will be here in a moment. The wind-swayed raft descended and flew away from the southern Yu Kingdom. Flying into the sky, Su Xing noticed there were not any places worth going to. In the big Liangshan, there unexpectedly was not any place to stop over. Young master, you should find an immortal's abode to practice in ease. Lin Yingmei opened her mouth. The indifferent Yan Yizhen nodded. Master's current cultivation is still a bit too shallow. Su Xing was still at Nebula late stage right now, although he had obtained Yin Qing's star energy after he contracted her. Apparently, even though his star energy was filled to the brim, his star energy was still a cloud that had difficulty becoming a river. Every realm of cultivation, from one realm to another, for a star cultivator would become extremely difficult to attain the later the realm. Su Xing now had reached a bottleneck, and Suwen had no way out for him despite making some pills. Didn't Big Brother obtain a purple star jade pendant? And Suwen said, Su Xing, actually, I always had a question I've been dying to ask you. Shi Yuan hesitated. Su Xing smiled. What could it be you're afraid of hurting me? Ask away. Shi Yuan looked at her sisters and mumbled. We have been with young master this long, but could it be that young master does not have any close relatives? Turning the words, Shi Yuan stuck out her cute tongue. Su Xing, don't you be angry, it's just that you look as if you're homeless. Being able to contract the majestic star. Shi Yuan always thought Su Xing perhaps had some exceptional status. In this world, besides all of you, I don't have close relatives. Su Xing shook his head. Shi Yuan felt sorry for Su Xing, somewhat regretful that she brought this topic up. This isn't something you can't mention. Su Xing smiled and stroked her face. His heart slightly sighed, for he did not have a permanent home in Liangshan. Being all over the place also was not a solution, and he always felt he really seemed to be missing something. Perhaps this just was Su Xing, always looking for a sense of belonging? This was something he should think about it properly. Right now, the Great Liang dynasty, and even the entire Azure Dragon territory, was currently looking for the purple thunder monster. It was not too possible for Su Xing to return to the city, so he found a remote mountain cave, and then entered it. While Su Xing controlled his flying sword, he assumed an immortal's abode stance. It seemed he at long last would not be that miserable. The girls could not help but want to smile, feeling their young master truly was melancholy and moody enough. Moving out the heavenly spirit grade chest, Su Xing then controlled his star energy to open it, and everyone was filled with anticipation. 2. A silver light twinkled. The heavenly spirit grade birth outline was amazing as expected, a pile of dazzling items even more in quantity, and even more precious than an earthly fiend grade. There were a few drug ingredients, crystals and stones that need not be mentioned. What made Lening Mei happy was that there was one piece of daybreak frost and snow essence required for her to refine her second star. And there was also the one piece of falling mercury crystal that Wuxia just happened to be short of in order to be complete. Besides these, inside was unexpectedly an additional feather garment. Surprisingly, a look showed that it was a small bodice with a very tender fragrance. Su Xing could not help but pick it up to sniff it. 3. Besides the indifferent Yin Yizhen, the beautiful maidens could not help but be red in the face, rebuking him. Young lord, how can you be like this? Su Xing did not want to be a pervert, but it was just that the fragrance of this bodice was extremely splendid, causing him to be unable to resist stuffing his nose into it and sniffing. If it was put onto anyone's body, then that was a beautiful scene. Su Xing felt his beastly blood boil thinking about it. This is a snow-winged cicada bodice. 5. Yin Yizhen explained. Why would there be this sort of thing inside the chest? Is it very important for a star general? Su Xing asked. Yin Yizhen calmly answered. This is an astral tool. Not only is it unbreachable by water and fire, it can make the amount of time a star general can spend fighting in the air even longer. Which one of you wants to change? Su Xing chuckled. The girls' cheeks were slightly red, and they shook their heads. Little E. This slave servant does not need this. Yin Yizhen replied very seriously. Little sis Suwen, little sister thanks big brother for his kindly feelings. And Suwen bashfully refused. You honor. This young lady is a robber, and does not like the color white hay. Shi Yuan was without a choice. The knowledge star Wuxia faked embarrassment. Xinjia likes this bodice, however. If young lord personally helps Xinjia change. 6. Xinjia. The girls were stunned by her bold statement. All right. Su Xing was not a pure and innocent little boy. How could he turn down this sort of happy occasion? Wu Xinjia's expression was very charming, and she really began to undress. This, Lening Mei's brows wrinkled, nevertheless saying nothing. Turning her head away so she could not look, and Suwen found it embarrassing as she turned her gaze. Shi Yuan was very curious, and Yin Yizhen was even more incomparably calm. Taking off her jacket, she revealed a blue bodice and snow-white skin delicate enough to break if blown on. Exquisitely smooth and tender, Wu Xinjie lowered her head and shyly bit her lip. This appearance was on another level of alluring. Young lord certainly must feel tenderness towards Xinjie. 7 Lin Yingmei scowled. Su Xing reached out his hand and drew Wu Xinjie into his embrace. The girl's delicate body was on his chest, her high mountains in conflict. Following her tender skin, his hands actually were about to undo the knot to her bodice. Don't! Wu Xinjie finally uttered, having still been defeated. Undressing and being changed in front of her sisters. Even if she was the knowledge star, she was still very bashful. Lin Yingmei is still best suited for this snow-winged cicada bodice. Su Xing had already known she would say this. He could not help but kiss her cheek and drape clothes over her. When Wu Xinjie was revealing herself, Su Xing felt that his body burned in lust. Lin Yingmei did not act shy at all as she reached out her hand and received it. Afterwards, everyone teased each other for a bit. Wu Xinjie seized the chance to refine her heaven-concealing star fan to 1 star. And the sky at this time was already dark. Having toiled for a day, all the girls were very tired, one after the other entering the star nest to rest. The immortal's abode was cold and cheerless all of a sudden. Su Xing cultivated for a bit, actually not sleepy in the least. He raised his head and watched the bright moon in the sky, and then he was met directly with the summit. Reclining on it, moonlight bathed his body, unexpectedly with a sort of fantastic feeling. Heaven and earth were calm, and there was only the one man. Young master. Beside him appeared a warm presence, and Su Xing did not have to turn his head to know who it was. Lin Yingmei appeared clear, cold and refined in the moonlight. She had lost a bit of her heroic air, but gained a slight charm. Is young master moody? This appearance of Su Xing's made Lin Yingmei somewhat worried. It's nothing. It's just that it's almost the 15th of the Mid-Autumn Festival. 8. So I was of the mind to admire the moon. Su Xing smiled. What's the of the 15th Mid-Autumn Festival? Lin Yingmei was blank. Su Xing shook his head, not answering. A moment later, Lin Yingmei then knelt nearby, watching the unattainable heaven-raising pillar that was the Maiden Mountain. Out of the corner of her eye, she again looked at Su Xing, quietly guarding from nearby, not saying a word. With regards to the first girl that signed a contract with him when he came to Liangshan, Su Xing's heart always had a kind of indescribable feeling. He customarily drew Lin Yingmei's shoulder towards him. In the army, this was a very close comrade-in-arms gesture. Lin Yingmei clearly felt the change in Su Xing's heart, for she did not struggle. A long time afterwards, Lin Yingmei whispered, "Young master, could you help your servant change into that snow-winged cicada bodice?" 9 Su Xing went blank, looking at Lin Yingmei with surprise, and the girl buried her head away from him. All right. Su Xing naturally would not decline. Lin Yingmei turned her body away, and her upper garment very quickly was peeled off. The icy luster of gems pervaded her back, that was without even a single scar. Within the light wind, Su Xing clearly felt Lin Yingmei's body tremble ever so slightly. When he undid the knot to her bodice, her shuddering changed to a rigidity. "I'll really help you change," Su Xing made certain. "N." A reply of consent quiet as a mosquito. Su Xing felt that the Lin Yingmei and he tonight both alike became somewhat strange, and he did not know whether or not his mood influenced her. Su Xing calmed down his mind. Despite looking at that naked upper body of Lin Yingmei, he could not help but feel somewhat crazy in love. Bringing that bodice to cover her front, the tips of his fingers at this time touched that ample softness, and Lin Yingmei let out a shallow moan. "Your servant is young master's chamberlain. Regardless of whether young master is or is not homeless, your servant does not care," Lin Yingmei suddenly said. "In the case that young master is willing, to you can look upon your servant as your family." Su Xing shook, smiled, then kissed her pure white neck, tenderly answering, "Of course you are precisely my family." Lin Yingmei moaned, not knowing whether Su Xing kissed too sensitively, or if his words stirred the softness of her heart. The second day when Su Xing rose, he walked into the living room, and found the beautiful girls already were up. They gazed at Su Xing, then at the Lin Yingmei keeping watch from afar, her face ambiguous. Su Xing pretended he did not see, and he saw a pile of tokens, flags and such were arranged on the stone table, curiously asking, "What are you all doing?" "Sister Xinjia is helping Big Brother choose a sect." And Suwen charmingly replied, "A sect? Considering our current situation, Xinjia proposes to first use the purple star token to create an immortal's abode. Because it requires spirit vessels, as a result we must enter a sect." "Young lord, you will not oppose, will you?" Wu Xinjia blinked. Su Xing agreed. Last night he was just thinking over this matter. He had gotten hold of the purple star grade outlaw writ for more than a month, and actually never used it. This was too wasteful. Besides the birth outline that already began, after more months pass by, the purple star grade birth outline would appear. At that time, the entire Azure Dragon territory would flare up. Powerful sects would all turn out in full strength, and according to his current situation, he simply did not have the chance to get involved in the purple star grade this time. But I seem to already have been listed as someone to arrest. Su Xing was for lack of a better option, due to the opposing energy between the devil suppressing steel and the ghost's god Bane. Two great sects were looking for him. So entering a sect was easier said than done. Shi Yuan proudly revealed every sort of prop that was stacked up on the table like a mountain. "Su Xing, just leave this to this young lady." This young lady was wandered all over Liangshan, so the tokens of every sect are here as they should. 10. The Knowledge Star currently is seeking for Master One that already will not delay the current birth outline plundering, and will not delay Master's practice. In addition, that sect can let Master earn for this reason without bringing trouble. Yin Yizhen apathetically started to talk. It sounded like they wanted to kill 3 birds with 1 arrow. It can't be this perfect. Su Xing smiled. The Knowledge Star has already found one. Lin Yingmei said. The sect Wu Xinjia chose was known as the Four Styles School. This sect was located in the Azure Dragon territories, most remote eastern Cooling Kingdom refining prefectures, flaming eastern island. 2. It could even be said to be cut off from the rest of the world. The Four Styles School in the ancient past was once a reputedly illustrious great school. For the Champion 9 Dragons 3 of Azure Dragon territory legend, he took possession of a seat in public office, and was called by others as the Refining Dragon. After the star duels began, Azure Dragon territory's cards were shuffled, and the Champion 9 Dragons was the first to be overthrown. For all kinds of reasons, the Four Styles School declined. However, a camel starving to death was bigger than a horse. This Four Styles School somewhat still had the leftover Champion 9 Dragons. In the Azure Dragon territory, he still had a bit of military glory. To give Su Xing the beautiful spirit vessels the Four Styles School occupied could not be any more suitable. The other important reason why Wu Xinjia considered the Four Styles School was because the Four Styles School was a school adept at tool refinement. Su Xing had slightly entered the world of tool refinement, and he had many materials on hand. To forge the Heavenly Spirit Earthly Fiend Purple Star 5 Elements sword in the future, he would need tool refinement methods. This would help Su Xing solve the Purple Star Outlaw writ together at once, and 2. Also could conveniently give him mastery in tool refinement. To go from here to Cooling Kingdom is approximately a 10-day route. Although it is somewhat long, we can conveniently plunder a few birth outlines along the road. Wu Xinjia actively said. For the time being, we must still prepare for the important appearance of the Purple Star grade birth outline. Is entry into this kind of ancient sect possible? And Suwen asked. Wu Xinjia smiled. Shi Yuan took out a jade pendant. This jade pendant was carved with a fantastic design that formed the word refine, appearing like a portrait at first glance. This was precisely the Four Style School's token. 2 years prior, Shi Yuan received this from a skeleton she found exploring a labyrinth. Besides this token, there were several jade strips, a flying sword, a red pearl, and 100 talismans. Su Xing took the token. After his divine intent responded, some information about the token entered his ocean of consciousness, and then he looked at those jade strips. These jade strips recorded this token owner's name and his entire life. His name was Yuqi Qingshan, and what made Su Xing surprised was that he was unexpectedly a great tool refinement scholar. This flying sword is so beautiful, did he forge it? And Suan praised it. The flying sword was approximately 3 qi long, 1 finger wide, its entire body refined from crimson jade and treasures. Engraved into it were veined patterns like flame, and stimulating his magic energy, they saw dark red spell runes revolve around the flying sword. The sword's edge was brightly lit, its hilt had a pearl, and engraved on it were the 4 words Clinging Fire Star Domain. 5. Could it be this is the Clinging Fire Divine Thunder of the Liangshan continent's 5 elements astonishing thunders? Yan Yizhen frowned. That should not be the case. Clinging Fire Star Domain Sword. Hearing this name, it actually seems to be an astral treasure. Wu Xinjie was not too certain. Ah, astral treasure? The girls were astounded. You have never brought this thing out before, Shi Yuan? Lin Yingmei said in surprise. Shi Yuan stuck out her tongue, but she could not be blamed for this. In these 3 years, the thief star stole from countless ancient tombs and labyrinths, and sometimes, she would steal from under a careless cultivator. In 3 years, she accumulated not much, but not too little, and Shi Yuan could not use artifacts at all anyways. Thus, the majority were completely exhausted being swapped for talismans, travel money and the like, leaving only a few things she felt looked great but were useless. This sword's design was extremely gorgeous, making her love it too much to part with it. It was a pity that this sword was not sharpened, so it could only serve as a decoration. Afterwards, Shi Yuan just forgot about it. Su Xing picked up this Clinging Fire Star Domain sword. Sure enough, just as Shi Yuan said, he could only use his divine intent to levitate it in front of him, without any way to propel it. Imbuing it with more star energy only made the sword glow even brighter. But there was not any sort of use. This Clinging Fire Star Domain sword has had a forbid dance engraved onto it. Wu Xinjie was considered to have some understanding of magic weapons. It seemed the talisman engravings clearly were placed by an adept, and this made the knowledge star somewhat excited. If this was the case, this sword certainly was unmistakably an astral treasure. Su Xing again looked at that red pearl. It was also very ordinary, and imbuing it with star energy only made it let out a dazzling scarlet light. The things the tool refinement scholar brought indeed were elusive. Shi Yuan, if you have anything more, do not forget about it. If it was not for choosing a sect for young lord, this top-notch treasure would have been forgotten by you. Wu Xinjie unhappily smiled. Shi Yuan searched her pockets and shook her head. She really had nothing else. Since forbid dance engravings have been added, the 4 Styles School should have a way to release it. At that time, we can again think of a solution. Wu Xinjie then again gave Su Xing an explanation of items to pay attention to when he entered the 4 Styles School. According to the plan the Knowledge Star composed, Su Xing had best assume the identity of this senior Yuqi Qingshan's apprentice, because it seemed from letters that this Yuqi Qingshan left seclusion to find an apprentice with the roots of intelligence. Ever since the Champion 9 Dragons collapsed, the 4 Styles School was cut off from the rest of the world. Generally, to accept an apprentice, seniors would leave seclusion of their own accord and wander the 4 seas, seeking opportunity, and they did not know why such a great tool refinement scholar would perish within an ancient tomb. In this way, Su Xing would very legitimately become a 4 Styles sect disciple. However, he would first have to practice some 4 Styles sect entrance secret arts. Those just happened to be recorded inside the token, and relying on the innate gift of Su Xing's absolute sincerity soul technique, within several days, that would not become a problem. Everything was planned to be watertight, and then Wu Xinjie stood on the wind-swayed raft, looking into the distance at the birth outline starlight of the Maiden Mountain. After the birth outline opened, there appeared every day a light that carried a birth outline. The majority that were robbed and killed first of all needed their positions judged according to these faintly discernible lights. Some birth outlines seemed to be very close, but perhaps they were as far as 10,000 li. To rob and kill for the birth outline, the experts of a majority of sects all used protection techniques for the star masters in their schools. Sometimes, even if a birth outline was seen, they six could only give up. After all, to use their current strength to handle a completely armed sect was very hard without any dominance that could be spoken of. Wu Xinjie took a glance, and the direction of flaming eastern island flashed through her ocean of consciousness. Within the several lights, she locked onto one path among them that would conform. A birth outline there was not within the range of influence of a great sect's power, so everyone then took off in that direction. Rushing to the place where the birth outline would appear, the star cultivators there were not many, perhaps more than 300 people, and the cultivations that were at galaxy stage actually were not few. Su Xing arrived. The 100-star cultivators just looked grim, brimming with hostility as they looked at him. Su Xing lightly smiled, but in his heart, it was actually a cold smile. This time, he was not like how he was last. Stopping over briefly, he immediately turned into an escape light that went far away. Those star cultivators did not relax, and actually had sect members use divine intent to lock down the surroundings. At this time, Su Xing used the oneness of heaven and man to then directly conceal himself in a secret place. He might as well be the fisherman that snatches the snipe and clam. The troops escorting the birth outline were revealed. It was a heavenly spirit rank treasure chest, and the escorts were famed and great. 2 Cyclops jinns, 7 one in front and one in back, carried the chest together, and the surroundings had an additional 16 flying Apsara blood centipedes. 8 Su Xing raised his head and looked, only to see more than a dozen galaxy stage cultivators release sword art abilities. Several hundred multicolored sword arts formed every kind of sword array, that imposing air seriously ferocious. The flying Apsara blood centipedes in the blink of an eye were down by 4. Every sort of artifact flew out one after the other. In the sky, a multicolored light was on the move, flying a splendid rainbow. Su Xing clicked his tongue. Although there were few people, their strength certainly was far too much more powerful compared to those star cultivators at Whistling Wind Mountain. This Cyclops Jin was an ancient monster. Surly and unreasoning, it was hard to find a rival. Its one eye released an incandescent light that broke a sword array. The Cyclops Jin's flesh was like metal, hard as steel, impervious to sword and spear. Those imposing and violent flying swords stabbing onto their bodies only gave off clanging noises, as if they were striking stone. The flying Apsara blood centipedes spat out poisonous blood. The blood became swords that splashed and scattered throughout 100 meters. This poison blood was extremely ferocious. For a few cultivators' defensive artifacts melted on contact. The star cultivators who were splashed immediately had their blood poisoned, screaming endlessly. "Kill the centipede first." A star cultivator shouted. Galaxy stage cultivators' sword arts became essential. 100 flying swords were matchlessly gorgeous, occasionally spiraling and twisting to kill, occasionally cutting from side to side everywhere. The sword array had myriad fluctuations. The sword rainbow broke through the poison blood, and the flying Apsara blood centipedes did not hold out for long before vanishing like smoke. The birth outline escorts were suddenly down to only the 2 Cyclops jinns. The star cultivators thought they had glimpsed hope, their offensive more wild than swelling waters. Roar! The Cyclops jinns suddenly dodged, their speed oddly quick. Flashing into the mass of star cultivators, it was just like a small mountain had pressed onto them. The Cyclops jin's arm waved, and it swept over several dozen meters away like a whip. Weakened star cultivators screamed, and became dust and smoke. Galaxy cultivators coordinated the usage of their sword arts for a blocking kill, as thousands of talismans, just like snowflakes wafting through the entire sky, exploded. The Su Xing below watched everything that unfolded above him. His eyes revealed admiration, for this scene really was too spectacular. The Cyclops Jin radiated a golden light, its arms waving. The single eye released a light that broke through the annoying sword array. The star cultivators that came here had robbed and killed several birth outlines with good coordination, but they did not expect the birth outline escorts this time to be ancient monsters, to be this unreasonable. Flying swords lost the favorable position, and perhaps only martial arts could have an effect. Which cultivator here would have the courage to dare directly face these Cyclops jinns? Gradually, the cultivators' formation began to scatter. Suddenly, a sword light escaped far away, unexpectedly fleeing. Ah, fellow! The others knew from a look that a plunder was no longer possible, successively using every escape technique. The Cyclops djinns roared, the golden light violently shooting and exterminating several cultivators. Several hundred cultivators scattered like birds and beasts, and the Cyclops djinn gave chase. Master, careful! Completely lacking warning, a huge shadow was in his face, a golden light descending. Yen Yizhen flashed out of the star nest. Her fists crossed together as she firmly caught this attack. The girl's arms made a circle, soft as running water, and her left and right hands alternated, staggering this power. The remaining Cyclops djinn carrying the chest on its back bellowed above Su Xing. It deserved the name of ancient monster. For Su Xing's oneness of heaven and man was discovered in an instant. The Cyclops djinn's long arm grabbed at Su Xing. Su Xing opened his 5 fingers. A purple blooming water thunder and lightning that was like a claw captured the Cyclops djinn. The Cyclops djinn loudly cried under the blooming water divine thunder and lightning, but it seemed this did not have any effect. It looked as though they could only rely on martial strength as expected. A crisp and clear, dazzling cold light appeared. Lin Yingmei coldly shouted and raised her spear, her jet-black hair whipping in the wind. Her cloak rose, and her collar opened wide, vaguely revealing a white belly band. The Lin Yingmei that changed into the snow-winged cicada belly band had her body techniques made even faster, as if she was stepping on clouds and mist. Suspended in the air as she battled with the Cyclops djinn, the Arctic Star spear slashed down again and again, and the Cyclops djinn's skin that was secure as a city finally revealed wounds. Yen Yizhen timely moved, her fists violently waving and striking. Every strike brought tremors to the Cyclops djinn, the might unexpectedly not any one bit inferior to the Arctic Star spear. The Cyclops djinn howled in grief repeatedly, unable to bear the violent attacks of 2 star maidens, as the treasure chest it held aloft with its hands immediately fell down. The Shi Yuan, who had been waiting for a long time, exhibited the excellent body techniques of a robber, rushing towards the treasure chest. She thought of taking the treasure chest, and the treasure chest radiated brilliantly. Shi Yuan released star energy, and then fought against the treasure chest. The Cyclops djinn was tangled by Lin Yingmei and Yen Yizhen. It cried out continuously, its 2 arms whirling around, but the 2 star generals' bodies were light as swallows, relying on their unparalleled star weapons to resist for a short while. The Cyclops djinn fired a light beam from its eye towards Shi Yuan, which Su Xing blocked with the earth shield. Hong! The pressure shook the earth shield with tremors, a power that was tyrannical. The other Cyclops djinn that went to disperse the other star cultivators again rushed back, pouncing on Shi Yuan. Su Xing raised both his hands this time, purple lightning hovering about his 10 fingers, a lightning serpent that swelled and contracted. Waving his hands, they released a blooming water divine thunder that looked like claws and teeth. The purple thunder immediately grabbed this Cyclops djinn, and when Su Xing put his hands together, the lightning claw immediately merged and suddenly released the tips of teeth, purple thunder tearing it apart. The Cyclops djinn wailed in anguish, yet this ancient monster's eye released a cold light. The nebula magic weapon earth shield once again cracked. Su Xing stared, for how could he dare again receive the attack directly? Shi Yuan at this time got rid of the treasure chest's light. Taking up the chest, she advanced under the cover of Ensuan and Wu Xingjia's protection. These Cyclops djinn's heads had a divine intent of protecting the birth outline treasure chest carved into them. Seeing the chest had been taken, they madly threw themselves towards Shi Yuan, wanting to bite the girl to pieces then spit out the chest. Su Xing's shark claw hook and blood rain pot simultaneously rose. The shark claw hook grappled onto the pursuit attack of the Cyclops djinn, while the blood rain pot's bloodlight beat the Cyclops djinn's solid body. But this monster's skin was just like essence gold. The galaxy stage artifact blood rain pot had great difficulty piercing through, and he only heard the clanging sound of striking metal. Seeing Su Xing alone stall a Cyclops djinn, Lin Yingmei and Yen Yizhen accelerated their attack rate. A moment had not passed when the Cyclops djinn at last was unable to support itself, turning into ash. The last Cyclops djinn's hair stood on end, releasing a low roar from within its throat, an expression of excessive ruthlessness as it immediately pounced. Its immense body gave people an intensely oppressive feeling. Just this slightly human appearance was enough to scare stiff crying children, and those two long arms waved. Su Xing had been bolstered by Wu Xingjia's speed is a crucial asset in war, and relying on speed, he finally suppressed the Cyclops Jin. Hey! A sound that broke the air. Without even a bit of hesitation, Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen immediately went for the kill. A chilly and icy light appeared on Yin Yizhen's yin-yang Pisces fists. In the moment her figure swayed, she already was powerfully punching continuously. The Cyclops Jin's body may have been enormous, but the flexibility of its movements made people gasp in surprise. As an ancient fifth-ranked demon type, it always had its own original place. Lin Yingmei silently rushed out, her soldierly figure rolling out a whirlwind where she was. The majestic star's speed already displayed brilliance, and although the Cyclops Jin's two arms were like whips with strikes that vigorously gusted, it was awfully clear that with plentiful combat experience, the effect she received was greatly mitigated. The girl's eyes were filled with detachment, and Lin Yingmei's figure already swept past the Cyclops Jin's side. A cold thread in her hand suddenly appeared, and immediately faded away. The Cyclops Jin's stomach had been punctured, had a bloody hole the size of a bowl, and a thick pillar of blood like a fountain rushed into the air. Its tremendous body rocked, then fell on its face where it was. Su Xing also timely released a blooming water divine thunder to interrupt the Cyclops Jin's continuous attacks. And then Ensuin and Shi Yuan each took out their destined star weapons to finish it off. While everyone ganged up on it, this monster Cyclops Jin could not help but howl in anguish. This time, a soul flew out, and Shi Yuan then received it. After having plundered and killed several birth outlines, they finally encountered one with a soul. When those fleeing cultivators saw that the Cyclops Jins had been killed, they again flew back. Su Xing had unintentionally tangled with them. Raising the wind-swayed raft, he departed, easily breaking away from them. He arrived at a plateau on a mountain, and only then did Su Xing open the treasure chest. A silver light and a golden light shone, and it was a chest of silver stones. It had cloud patterns soft and pure. From the ascend a mountain and dive for pearls and the notes, then Su Xing knew this kind of silver stone should be the cloud pattern dipper silver. One piece was equivalent to 20 million liang of gold, and the chest had 5 pieces in total. 2. Along with these 5 cloud pattern dipper silver, there was also 5 pieces of the softest silk golden or jade stone. From its flawlessly pure gold color, it was astonishingly extreme winding essence gold. It was a pity that there was not any daybreak frost and snow essence. Su Xing was somewhat regretful, and as he stowed away the stones, the group was currently preparing to depart from Cooling Kingdom. Just at this moment, from the empty sky came a tearing feeling. Everyone immediately put up their guard. There was a loud rumble, and a figure seemingly was spat out from empty space, heavily dropping down. It was not clear if it was alive or dead. Su Xing was surprised stiff by this unexpected scene. They flew over to it, and they saw a handsome youth with his bangs, parted to the side, collapsed on the spot. He wore a black robe, but the young man himself looked ordinary, commonplace with nothing strange, except that his face was exceptionally pale. Those are the Lifeless Hall's robes, Wu Xinjie said, confused. This Lifeless Hall was one of the 2 halls of the Azure Dragon Territory's great sects. How was this disciple of the Lifeless Hall in such a sorry state? The Knowledge Star searched, only to discover his cultivation had unexpectedly reached galaxy late stage. Su Xing looked at this youth, wrinkling his brow, his expression in bitter pain. Evidently, he had just received some kind of attack. Big brother, shall we save him? The divine physician asked. Su Xing nodded, and the efficacious star took out a pill that she made him swallow. This youth's expression then finally calmed somewhat. Why would the Lifeless Hall be here? Shi Yuan was curious. Most probably he was here to snatch a birth outline when he encountered a powerful monster. Lin Yingmei guessed. Lifeless Hall has a star master described as being at the level of a monster. I heard he is very powerful, and for this birth outline, the Lifeless Hall definitely has exhausted their funds for him. It is reasonable to say that for his being at Galaxy late stage, robbing and killing the birth outline should not be so difficult. Wuxia really was unable to understand. Forget it, don't worry about him. Let's leave first. Su Xing was not interested in caring about this sort of thing as the lifeless hall. Seeing his expression was calm, they could be considered to have been extremely benevolent. Just as the group was about to leave, leaving from the side of Biluo's three young master, the sound of someone approaching was like a whistling wind, accompanied by the sound of panting that broke the air. Yin Yizhen moved forward a step, and her hands grabbed. Bang! Several green lights flashed. Unexpectedly, they forced Yin Yizhen to continuously retreat several steps. The indifferent maid's expression revealed a trace of astonishment. A delicate figure suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. The speed was oddly quick. It was a young woman. Her eyes were limpid, with natural good looks, wearing a blue smoky emerald vest. 5. A green pleated skirt that scattered flowers and mist. Her shoulders were draped with a light blue shade of a blue water thin smoke muslin, and her hair was in a bun with a dragon and phoenix hairpin jetting into it. She was actually a budding beauty. Young master? Su Xing was stunned. Could he be a star master? Everyone gazed at this ordinary man and felt disbelief. A Galaxy late-stage star master simply was a monster. Yin Yizhen immediately put out an attack stance. The emerald smoke girl pursed her lips tightly, her fists clenched hard. They saw a moss-green flame ignite in her hand, and the blaze floated about. From time to time, it appeared like a malevolent monster's face, seemingly terrifying. The girl's forehead had a dark green star crest. Her identity was vividly displayed, Star General. The group's entire bodies were on guard. Su Xing stealthily used his divine intent to grab onto the artifact flying sword. The girl before him had a type of indescribable imposing air. Especially her young master, that was unexpectedly at Galaxy late stage, really was too unbelievable. Biluo, do not move your hand against them. Just at this moment where anything could happen, a warm and magnetic voice called out. The unconscious man had slowly opened his eyes under that pill of insuance. The girl Biluo harumphed, her fists relaxing. The green demon flame dispersed, and she promptly ran to the man's side. Thank you for your composed behavior pill. 6. The man slightly smiled. Although he looked commonplace, his smile was very kindly, one that made people almost forget his status as a star master. Unexpectedly, it was a Galaxy late-stage star master. This had to be a joke, right? Su Xing was speechless, smiling on the surface. Fellow's expression looked bad. I wonder what happened. Could it be said Fellow encountered another star master? Biluo glared at Su Xing. What nonsense is that of yours? How could a star master be young master's opponent? Young master was but inattentive in handling a 6th-rank black water dragon. 7. Biluo. The man lightly smiled, and the girl tactfully ceased speaking. What? You alone were handling a 6th-rank demon beast? Wuxia's heart could not raise any more shock. They had needed Junqing to handle a 5th-rank demon beast. Yet this man unexpectedly dared to pick a fight with a 6th-rank demon beast? Although a 6th-rank demon beast theoretically was equivalent to Galaxy stage, for a lone cultivator to get rid of one was harder than climbing to heaven. We missed the critical moment by a bit. The man was warm. He looked at Lin Yingmei and the rest. His eyes unexpectedly did not show a change of mood in the slightest, his heart frightfully calm. Could you be that monster of lifeless hall? Sure, Yuan for the moment could not recall the name. You are Yin Wudao. Wuxia stared at the other person. This one beneath you is indeed Yin Wudao. He calmly confessed. The atmosphere for a time was grim. Su Xing did not expect the person they just saved would be described as the Azure Dragon Territory's monster star master, Yin Wudao. This guy was frightening as expected. Without mentioning this exaggerated Galaxy late-stage cultivation, he unexpectedly dared to fight a 6th-rank demon beast. Particularly looking at that Biluo girl at Yin Wudao's side, her forehead had an air of arrogance. 8. Clearly, her identity was not simple. Your name has been known to me for a long time. Sure enough, you are amazing. Su Xing cupped his fist. This time I was conceited. Yin Wudao frankly admitted to his own carelessness. This one beneath you wonders what to call your distinguished self. 9. Su Xing. He was this rejuvenated, and Su Xing actually did not think of concealing himself as a peon. Many thanks for brother Su Xing's kindness in saving the life of this one beneath you today. I did not save you, Su Xing replied. Even if he did not eat that composed behavior pill, he would not have died. Yin Wudao actually did not believe this was the case. Wearing a profound smile, that calm expression seemingly saw through Su Xing's status as a star master to give off this graciousness. Biluo, have you obtained the heavenly spirit grade chest? Only naturally. It was a mere trifle, Biluo pridefully said. Biluo alone settled things. A chest then appeared. This time, even Lin Yingmei was somewhat astonished. This really was too terrifying for a star master. If that man was sent flying handling a 7th-ranked demon beast by himself, that would be it. This star general unexpectedly picked a fight and got rid of the demon beast. Lin Yingmei's fists clenched tightly as she stared fixedly on the two. Wudao has not yet opened this chest. Brother Su Xing, if you would not turn your back on me, then please take anything from this chest at will to count as remuneration in turn. Yin Wudao said, his expression very sincere. In turn, then forget about it. If you really want to be magnanimous, then send me that chest. Seeing his expression was this generous, Su Xing could not help but speak some banter. You truly are without shame. This is but the birth outline treasure chest young master nearly threw his life away to plunder. Biluo was indignant. Brother Su Xing is really humorous. Yin Wudao's finger moved, and a black jade flew to Su Xing's hand. Su Xing fiddled with the black jade in his hand. His ocean of consciousness recalled the words that Yin Wudao said. This piece of lifeless jade had a value of several millions, and it was a precious stone that the lifeless hall used a secret technique to refine. Possessing this piece of jade signified in some aspect that you were an important guest of the lifeless hall. Yin Wudao gave this piece of lifeless jade to him without the slightest hesitation, which made Su Xing feel surprised. He was confident that this Yin Wudao should have discerned that he himself had the status of Star Master. Not only did he not act to kill, he even somewhat had the intention to become acquainted. He naturally would not believe a Star Master at the Galaxy late stage would want to curry favor with him. Merely looking at the appearance of Yin Wudao and his Star General, Su Xing knew his group perhaps would not have been their opponents even if they did gang up on the two. This Yin Wudao actually is somewhat interesting. Su Xing pondered, then stored the lifeless jade into his sack. Master, you must be wary of him, and especially of that Star General. Yin Yizhen's tone was cautious. She looked at both her fists, which were left with burn marks. To make Liangshan's #1 boxer, the skillful star, say these words, the enemy was as well as one could imagine. That Star General, Xinjie, do you know who she is? Everyone placed their gazes onto Wu Xinjie. The knowledge star continuously contemplated. Hearing the question, she raised her head and shook it. She should be at the 10,000 techniques realm, as Xinjie was unable to see through her. However, seeing her attack, she should not be a military general. Their counterpart did not reveal a destined star weapon at all, and Wu Xinjie did not dare judge presumptuously. Using her line of thought to judge, the other party should be a heavenly star. The attack method she was adept in was magic and the like, but not matter how they put it, that Star Maiden was still considerably conceited. Otherwise, at any time she felt her young master had encountered danger, she would have taken out her destined star weapon. However, she indeed had the means to be conceited. Yin Wudao's cultivation had reached Galaxy late stage, so even if she was an earthly star, she would still prevail over a heavenly star. Why is his cultivation this high? And Suin truly could not think of how a mere 3 years of cultivation could attain Galaxy late stage. This kind of realm was too frightening. Is it because he has the purple star token? Lin Yingmei spoke some. Wu Xinjie shook her head, smiling. Yin Wudao and Xie Yuan, if Xinjie has not guessed wrongly, both have heavenly spirit grade tokens, and it was several months after the star duels began that they obtained them. Everyone showed an epiphanic expression. Although the allure of the purple star token was very great, to obtain one was impossible within 2 or 3 years. For example, Princess Ling Yen was also described as one of the Azure Dragon Territory's peak star masters, and only dared to get the purple star token when she was galaxy early stage. In this way, many years' worth of time had to be wasted. Geniuses the likes of Yin Wudao and Xie Zhenyuan took an alternate route, using the quickest speed to obtain the Heavenly Spirit grade outlaw writ that was second only to the purple star grade. Then within the last few years, their cultivations could greatly surpass that of others, and doing anything they wanted was much more convenient. Until after the start of the birth outline, they would have even more time to go prepare for the star duels, and did not need to practice. However, he unexpectedly fought a 6th-ranked demon beast on his own. His courage is not small. This point made Lin Yingmei awed. Mostly, robbing and killing for the birth outline was a matter where there was more insurance when many hands provide great strength. Who would be as egotistical as he? Not so. Although many hands provide great strength that could turn up an extreme advantage, a star general must be able to promote her coordination with the star master, and vice versa. If it is military skills, not having to rely on others is the most important. Wu Xinjie felt this was the reason that Yin Wudao would be called a monster, and it was the scariest aspect. Daring to discard enormous power that could act as support, to be a single spear and horse, this was not something just anyone could do. When all was said and done, after he really could enter Maiden Mountain, what he relied on could only be himself and not a sect. Su Xing deeply held this to be true. What monster or genius, how can he compare to Su Xing? Sure, Yuan angrily refused to accept that. This is only natural. Young master has contracted we 5 sisters. Those geniuses are not worth a mention. Wu Xinjie laughed into her sleeve. Her words were not wrong. The time from when he entered the world of star cultivators to know had not been more than half a year. Yet his star energy had reached nebula late stage. In all the Liangshan continent, perhaps there would not be anyone that could break the rules more than Su Xing could. We had still better quickly rush towards Cooling Kingdom. Seeing a powerful cultivator of the galaxy late stage, Su Xing was not particularly resigned. Yen Wudao fled on sword light directly northwards. From his ocean of consciousness, Biluo's voice sounded out. Young master. That shameless man just now Biluo knows is a star master. Why did young master give the lifeless jade to him? He is regarded as having saved my life, Biluo. Do you feel it was not right? Biluo loathes fickle men. He brings along that many beautiful women at his side. Biluo loathes to death, and truly wishes to use a stone to crush him to death. Yin Wudao slightly smiled. Not long after, 6 towering mountain peaks like swords appeared before his eyes. He saw more than a dozen sword lights approach wearing similar robes. They were precisely disciples of the lifeless hall. Senior brother Wudao. Every disciple deferentially saluted. Senior brother, nothing is wrong with you? Yin Wudao lightly nodded, his face wearing a slight smile. What? Senior brother Wudao, you ran off without permission this time. We hear you killed a 6th-ranked demon beast on your own, and the headmaster is currently angry. A cultivator said. After the birth outline opened, things have been too disorganized. The headmaster is afraid of that group of traditionalists from the most high path. Yin Wudao nodded, and then he flew to the tallest peak. Just when the entire Liangshan was in accordance with the You Die and I Live of the birth outline, in Cooling Kingdom's Sun Valley County, too, there nevertheless was a rumor that was spreading. It was said that an ancient demon beast, the beastly slant-eyed white-headed beast, 3 appeared on Jingyang Ridge, and every time night fell, a tiger hiss shook the mountain, shook it such that the Sun Valley County's villagers within 100 li could not have peace. The people were alarmed, and every night, they closed the passes and locked up the windows. The authorities dispatched many officers and men and hunting families to go capture it. But the fact was that not one man returned alive. It was just like Jingyang Ridge had become Suicide Ridge. For lack of a better option, the authorities issued a bulletin towards sects of star cultivators requesting for aid. However, it was currently the time to rob and kill for the birth outline, and those sects did not have the mood to take care of this. Many scattered star cultivators partnered up to kill the beast, and those that came out were few enough to be counted on fingers. On this day, against the setting sun, with wine banner floating open, a bamboo hat 5, wearing an elegant beyond compare young woman cheerfully strutted into Jingyang Ridge. The young girl's air was like a serene orchid, her mien absolutely beautiful, a pair of slender eyes like the deep starry skies, and wearing a kind of expression that was close to tranquil waters. She was fully stunning. Her brows were like smoke, and her purple-red lips reflected the sun. Wearing a black patterned beautiful dress, as well as a demon lotus cloak. 6. And with breasts that were like clouds. 7. Her graceful figure was without a match. That slender pair of legs had rarely seen leather armor boots, and particularly that satiny black hair that poured down to her butt. It was just like an upside-down Milky Way flying down 3,000 chi, which made people feel suffocated. The girl was graceful cold, just like a black lotus that bloomed among white ones. Noble and brimming with rejection, this strangeness made people incapable of looking up, only stealing admiring glances. She was exceedingly cool and elegant. At this time, Jingyang Ridge had many star cultivators, and when they saw the girl, each and everyone were captivated. The girl's seemingly cold yet not cold bright eyes swept, and she then walked into one of Jingyang Ridge's pubs. The atmosphere immediately froze. The girl was accustomed to this, not at all taking notice of these kinds of expressions. Finding an empty table, the girl's side seemingly had a formless chi field, making people unable to approach. These star cultivators instinctively felt the girl was dangerous and retreated backwards, but their expressions nevertheless were incapable of leaving the young lady's slim figure. Owner wine. The girl opened her mouth, her tone a flapping wind. Ah, honored guest, what do you want? The waiter did not dare step forward. Bring several bottles of bottle-penetrating fragrance. 8. Yes. Several bottles of good wine very quickly were sent, and the girl opened her mouth to ask, has a demon beast appeared at Jingyang Ridge? Ah, reportedly, it is an extremely violent slant-eyed white-headed beast. The officials are unable to take it down, and I hear several sects also had no solutions. A great deal of people have died. The girl drank large mouthfuls of the fragrant wine, and the waiter continued, honored guest, take it easy a bit. This bottle-penetrating fragrance is indeed the true Sun Sect's 9 special local product, 3 bottle only for intoxication. Ever since the girl entered this pub, the atmosphere became absolutely silent, and the mood turned more and more restless. Those star cultivators looked at each other in dismay, covering each other's stunned expressions with difficulty. The longer they stayed, the less they were able to restrain themselves against this girl. Several people began to leave with some difficulty. Slowly, the people inside the shop were fewer and fewer. The waiter felt this was not too normal, promptly looking stupidly and regretfully at the woman. The curtain was pulled open, and the waiter saw the shopkeeper wave before hastily running into his own room. In the blink of an eye, the inn was absolutely empty. The girl did not care. Drinking the good wine, her lips hooked into a slight smile. Leaving a few pieces of gold fragments, the girl then walked out the door. Her brows slightly tightened, treading forward. A large array immediately opened and trapped her. Hee. Shuffling, several hundred star cultivators rushed out. More than a dozen among them were galaxy cultivators raising swords defensively at their sides. Still not kneeling to give the star general a salute. They only heard this reprimand. These disciples then all half-knelt, loudly saluting. The girl did not bat an eye. The reprimanding elderly man carried a benevolent smile and walked out, also cupping his fist, his manner deferential. This one beneath you is the true Sun Sect headmaster. We heard Star General honored us with your presence here, and brought the sect's disciples to wait upon your distinguished self. Get out of my way. The young woman was cold as ice and frost. She approached of her own accord the crux of the array. The true Sun Sect headmaster smiled. The true Sun Sect has a talented star master, that your distinguished self certainly will be to your satisfaction. Although the true Sun Sect cannot be said to be a 10 great sect, we certainly will go through water, and tread on fire for Lady Star General. Exhausting all the power we have, We recently acquired a heavenly spirit grade chest that so happens could be gifted to your distinguished self. An exceedingly handsome man walked out. His eyes looked stunned and excited at the girl. His cultivation unexpectedly was at galaxy early stage. The girl lowered her eyes, somewhat indifferent. Without looking any further at the heavenly spirit treasure chest, or that genius star cultivator, she turned and walked towards Jingyang Ridge. The magic circle suddenly expanded, light flying in all directions, and the girl halted her advance. The old man said, "This is but the true sun heavenly fire great array. 10. You will not be able to walk out. Could it be that your distinguished self star general really will not consider it? The birth outline already began, so this is precisely a very good opportunity. If you have finished speaking your drivel, then remove this array." The girl icily said. The elderly man was somewhat irked. Since the birth outline has begun, even if we killed a star general, there should not be a problem. You really did not care too much about our true sun sect. If your distinguished self truly does not want to sign a contract, then the true sun sect can only commit an offense. Using this true sun heavenly fire great array, we will force you to submit. This true sun sect headmaster turned his head, and was just about to order that disciple, when suddenly he saw the disciple's face become frightened. He was on the point of rebuking his insufficient earnestness when suddenly, he discovered he could utter no sound from his throat. What was going on? The true sun sect headmaster felt strange. He suddenly felt an attractive fragrance, and his heart suddenly was fearful. His throat had already been ripped apart by a sharp and fine blade. He saw the cold and splendid girl appear before him, not knowing when she broke through the true sun, heavenly fire great array. Her speed was swift, for of all the disciples present, not one was able to react. Elders ought to peacefully enjoy their later years. The elderly man's pupils dilated in disbelief. If you find a star general in the future, you had best first find one willing to sign a contract. Otherwise, you will regret it for a lifetime. A delicate fragrance assailed the nostrils, air serenely entering the ear. The girl was indifferent, as if she was speaking about an insignificant matter. Everyone present cowered. Fine black hair satiny as water, beyond cool and elegant. After leaving behind more than a dozen corpses, the true sun sect's people immediately scattered in a panic. The outstanding and tall woman did not pursue them, standing very straight under Jingyang Ridge. Everything seemed to have had nothing to do with her, and she turned around to walk up Jingyang Ridge. Just at this time, a teasing voice sounded out behind her. Truly worthy of the name of dual master of sword and fist of the 108 sisters, and is also this good at understanding others. The woman raised her eyebrows, her cold and splendid eyes slightly narrowed, and she saw a girl wearing an imitation yellow armored vest and skirt walking cheerfully to her. Her face wore a slight smile, and if Su Xing were here, he would definitely be shocked. This girl was precisely the one who originally once recruited and controlled Lin Yingmei and Lu Qing'er at Cash Mountain Shower. Isn't it? Little sister Harm Star Pilgrim Wusong. Shower smiled and squinted her eyes. Her hair unfolded like running water. Her silhouette flashed by, the ends of her skirt rising. The black-haired elegant and magnificent girl already launched an attack. Shower retreated backwards, like a willow supported by a light wind, easily dodging Wusong's claw. Wusong's eyes had a cold light, and her wrists flipped, showing an extremely gorgeous, strange and mysterious saber. This saber seemed to be two daggers interlocked into a saber staff, its length reaching 2 meters. The sword tips were seemingly forged from thousand-year-cold snow, emitting an absolute chill. A ring of black talisman runes was eerily written onto the sword, deeply open, and on the verge of being revealed. The sword tip's cold light was just like an unfolding snow lotus herb. Under the contrast of black snow, it was extremely and eerily beautiful, pretty and flirtatious. This was precisely the Harm Star Pilgrim Wusong's destined star weapon. Double-ended sword, noble frost demonic lotus. 3. The black and white blend of stars on the sword twinkled. It was already a 2-star heavenly weapon. Little sister Wusong's noble frost demonic lotus still has this sort of beauty. Shower retreated, Wusong used one hand to chop. The noble frost demonic lotus spun and stabbed at Shower. Shower's hand flashed by, and a long weapon enveloped in golden light appeared in her hand. With a resounding noise, it slammed into the noble frost demonic lotus. Wusong's attack nevertheless did not stop, and in the instant they touched, the noble frost demonic lotus wound around, easily avoiding Shower's weapon. Sword chi slashed. Black lotus petals dispersed. Shower raised her long weapon, and she changed into a series of phantoms that got out of the way of her attack. The woman's mouth coldly hooked, destroying the images spry and lively. Shower's expression concentrated, and she suddenly turned around and leapt. The saber staff attacked from above and below, and sword chi struck from left and right. The airflow tore open, and it then shook back Shower. Shower looked at this cool and pitiless woman, teasing her. The previous generation's Wusong's skills pressured Maiden Mountain. This generation's little sister Wusong seems also to be very stunning here. If you want to die, do not hesitate to say so. With her long hair flowing, the tall woman seemed much more mature than Shower, so being called a little sister by her was somewhat strange. Shower curled her lips into a hook. The two stepped forward at the exact same moment. Wusong took the lead to launch an attack. The noble frost demonic lotus in her hand tore apart the atmosphere with a scream, appearing to be a dazzling strike of lightning, directly slashing towards Shower's delicate body. But Shower's movements were even more swift than this lightning. The girl's hair nearly stuck to the cold sword tip's sharp light, but the hair that had not yet approached, but was cut off by the sword chi was rather much. However, her expression actually concentrated on the target above, on that sweet and fair figure that was just like a graceful swallow. Under the light, sweeping by the tiniest fraction, in a split second of the girl's single-handed wave, the weapon shrouded in golden light launched a screaming strike against her counterpart. Wusong promptly sidestepped this attack, but some of her fine hair still had been severed. Bits of hair wildly danced all over the place, and in the instant that this chaotic scene could have been taken to be like a strong wind had blown past, Shower's second rippling attack had already arrived by a hair's breadth. The mutually crossing attacks was a feast for the eyes, and within the distance the intersecting weapons were stuck together. The weapons completely did not fully use any margin. Very quickly the battle then ended. The double peaks of the two girls stood in confrontation. Greeting your elder sister this way is not too good, right? Shower held her weapon in one hand, covering her mouth as she smiled. So it's you. Wusong calmly put away her fighting intent, and dispersing the saber staff, she seemed to know the identity of the girl before her. She coldly said, "Did you have some business?" "Don't be so cold," Shower smiled. Elder sister specially came to bring little sister two good pieces of news. Little sister Wusong's martial arts progress is exquisite, which elder sister admires. Fighting any further certainly would not bring much benefit. However, even if it is by little sister's current cultivation, that slant-eyed white-headed beast still can't be subdued? Shower leisurely said. The girl used her white fingers to tidy the hair severed near her cheeks, not replying. Shower continued to say, "How about if Shower helps you subdue it?" "Why would you want to help me?" Wusong asked. "That's very simple. I want you and I to go together to plunder the purple star birth outline. This thing of the birth treasure outline at that time will return to me. I do not have interest in this." Wusong icily turned around. The next piece of information, little sister Wusong certainly will be very interested in. Shower did not find this surprising. Lin Chong has signed a contract. Her footsteps halted, and the woman turned around. This time, pupils as sharp as knives revealed surprise. "What did you say?" It seems little sister truly is immersed in martial arts and star weapon upgrades, not caring about the Azure Dragon territory. The matter of Lin Chong and the Purple Thunder monster has stirred up many problems and troubles. Shower walked to her side, her brows raised. This little sister was even taller than her by a head, her breasts towering, her butt outstanding. The curves gathered under the silk were completely displayed. Indeed, a uniquely beautiful woman. Any man perhaps would dream of having such an ideally mannered star general, and even Shower felt jealous. Impossible. How would Ingmei sign a contract? Don't you think you can fool me? The woman's tone was cold. Ingmei, you even know her true name. Little sister and she have a pretty good relationship. But you would think so. Similarly, being a star general among us sisters, that absolutely would not possibly sign a contract. Your relationship has been good since time immemorial. Shower smiled. If you feel Shower is fooling you, then it is necessary to go ask. Furthermore, Shower indeed has seen with her own eyes firsthand her and that man. Surely he must have used a despicable trick. Her white fingers tightly clenched. The atmosphere had been squeezed to pieces, and Wu Song's eyes burst forth with an intense killing intent. Shower's eyelids jumped, and she lightly smiled. How about it? Lin Ingmei definitely will go seize the purple star-grade birth outline alongside her young master. At that time, you perhaps could see her. And what? It can't be said for certain that man would not make you extremely surprised. I definitely will kill him, Wu Song said coldly. Having wasted more or less 10 days, and again plundering 2 earthly fiend chests along the way, Su Xing's group finally arrived at the Azure Dragon territories, furthest east Flaming Eastern Island. Flaming Eastern Island was an enormous island, with a fire nature that was exceptionally good at forging weapons. The earthly fire mountain range, 5 snaked up and down, making Flaming Eastern Islands overhead enveloped in dark smoke all year round. Additionally, on this island were also more than a dozen volcanoes. The environment here was of torrid heat, one that ordinary star energy had difficulty resisting. Even if they were away by several tens of kilometers, they could still feel the stifling heat, and penetrating any further into the skin, it would be a pincushion of pain. It was very difficult to imagine this place would have an ancient school stationed on the island. The ancient era Champion 9 Dragons School had been extinguished. What the Four Styles School could preserve could be said to be as it should have been. Suspended on its lonesome offshore above the vile environment, no one was willing to stop over longer here. Furthermore, this tool refining sect, the Four Styles School, reportedly refined this Flaming Eastern Island into a terrifying forbiddance grade array. As a result, everyone had lingering fears which were not completely eradicated. In addition, in the 10,000 li of sea area, there was also a falling cherry ghost kingdom. 6 Flaming Eastern Island just happened to be lodged in the path of the falling cherry ghost kingdom's attack on the Azure Dragon territory, and the Azure Dragon territory needed a large sect to protect this place. Thus the Four Styles School maintained it. Although this was so, the Azure Dragon territory was rather afraid of the consequences. Blockaded tightly, the Four Styles School in end could only cut itself off from the rest of the world. Since then, it did not pay attention to the affairs of the world, and until now had nearly been forgotten with red clouds for days on end. Scorched earth spread over the ground. Su Xing's throat was incomparably dry, his forehead layered in sweat. He took out the token, and then in an instant, the token became an escape light that flashed into the dense fog of the island. 1 incense stick later, he then saw several scarlet lights escape out from the Flaming Eastern Island's mountain range. The lights arrived before him, and wearing dark red robes were a man and woman, their cultivations both at Nebula middle stage. We wonder what sort of person fellow is to Martial Uncle 7, Yuqi Qingshan? Seeing Su Xing's cultivation was Nebula late stage, the two were very deferential. This one beneath you is Su Xing. Su Xing respectfully said, narrating the pretext Wu Xinjia had first arranged beforehand. The male cultivator scouted, then nodded to the female cultivator. Follow me, the female cultivator said. Su Xing raised a sword light and accompanied them. Entering the center of the island, the air temperature somewhat fell. In the middle was a peak that was a green, grass-like cushion. In this Flaming Eastern Island, it could be counted as having ignited a slightly warm air. This peak that was known as Pure Heart Peak 8 was also the main peak of the Four Styles School's main hall. The others were also Fire Cloud Peak, 9 Water Moon Peak, 10 Wind Violent Peak, 11 and Thunder Roll Peak, 12 each representative of the sex Four Styles. While he passed through the sky, Su Xing specially sized up Flaming Eastern Island, and found that Flaming Eastern Island had several sizable villages, But he discovered en route to Clear Heart Peak, the sect's disciples were extremely few. He only saw very few numbers of disciples traveling back and forth between the 5 peaks. Those once imposing halls were covered in dirt, lonely and withered, a school with a desolate appearance. Su Xing actually had some sympathy. Seeing through what Su Xing was thinking, the female cultivator showing the way then explained. Many disciples currently are in seclusion refining tools. We originally were a tool refinement sect, continuously residing in the deep mountains, very infrequently showing our faces. If the bell tolls to warn of an enemy, we do have several thousand people. Su Xing had a "so that's why" expression, however. For such a big flaming eastern island, to only have several thousand people, the Four Styles sect was lacking in some. The female cultivator recalled something and slightly smiled. This one beneath you is Yang Yinyu. 13. You can call me Senior Sister Yang or Senior Sister Yinyu. Senior Sister Yinyu. I wonder what sort of person the master was in the sect? Su Xing asked, feigning curiosity. Martial Uncle Yuqi Qingshan was the Four Styles School's finest tool refinement scholar. His temper somewhat reclusive, he spent all year round cultivating, so even I am not too clear. But I hear people said the headmaster as well as Elder Four Styles both deeply revered him. The magic weapons Martial Uncle Qingshan's heaven-clinging divine fire forged could be matched only by Martial Aunt 14 Yueka's heavenly water heart flame. Reportedly, when Martial Uncle Qingshan wanted to leave the island to seek a disciple, the ancestral masters within the school were very opposed. Why did they want to oppose him? Su Xing did not understand. This I do not know. Perhaps it is because it was too dangerous. However, the headmaster's worries were correct. We never thought the martial uncle would really. Yang Yinyu sighed. Su Xing was silent. Fortunately, the martial uncle having found a worthy disciple can be considered as having no regrets. Seeing as how junior brother Su Xing's appearance is grand, you have boundless prospects. In the future, you must take care of senior sister. Yang Yinyu smiled. And I must also entreat senior sister take care of me as well. Su Xing modestly said. As the two chatted, when they entered the Pure Heart Peak, they resumed formalities as they then fell off their flying swords. While flaming eastern island seemingly had blistering heat, this Pure Heart Peak contrarily was indeed a refreshing coolness that set the heart as its name suggested. It was an entirely different scene, surrounded by emerald green, mellow and fresh water, with rare birds and beasts that could be seen from time to time. The main peak's environment was even more enveloped within a boundless mist, a school abundant with the colors of spring. Yang Yinyu said flaming eastern island's network of volcanoes was continuous. Like Fire Cloud Peak, the environment was broiling hot, the temperature higher by more than 40 degrees, the highest reaching 100 degrees. If ordinary cultivators did not wear precious jade, they simply would not have any way to support themselves for too long. Something like Pure Heart Peak was even created in ancient times when ancestral masters exerted their powers and secret arts. It could be said to be a genuine paradise. In addition, this kind of place was the residence of the headmaster. They did not walk for long, when an immense ring-shaped corridor appeared before them. Along its edge at intervals of 2 zhang were red pillars, and the pillars were carved with coiling dragons. The dragons spat raging flames, and within the conflagration, an arched door took shape. Following the corridor onward, they passed by each and every door and fire dragon pillar, and only then did Su Xing discover, within every door, each possessed a unique and refined courtyard. The scope of these courtyards were complex, with the sword storage pavilion, the literary path, 2 the extreme technique hall, 3 weapon tempering hall, the 100 opportune courtyard, 5 and so forth. Only through Yang Yinyu's introductions did he realize that the tool refinement, quenching hardening, spell carving, and the others of these courtyards and pavilions embodied a series of the Four Styles sect's most common sights. Without mentioning anything else, speaking from this scale, small courtyards like this perhaps were not less than 100 in number, so the former power of the Four Styles school could be clearly seen. It was a pity that these rows upon rows of numerous halls were nowadays pathetically few in disciples. Some pavilions were even without people to stand guard, covered completely in dust. Only after walking for a long while did they see the end of this corridor. There was an incomparably towering white wall, and under it a door opened. There were two very thick wooden door panels, their heights reaching 10 zhang. The door was painted with the 4 styles of wind, thunder, water and fire. Serious and vivid, a supernaturally fine craft. Stepping out of this door just now, Su Xing held his breath, looking at everything before him in disbelief. What he was before him was a super huge plaza, as if he stood in a plain that had no end in sight. Su Xing estimated it was at least the size of 3 Tiananmen squares. The surface was completely paved with white marble, reflecting and sparkling. One look would make people feel insignificant. From far away, a white cloud that was like muslin unexpectedly drifted underfoot. In the center of the public square, at intervals of several zhang, were placed massive copper cauldrons, divided into 3 rows with 3 each, for a total of 9 arranged according to some pattern. From within the cauldrons, smoke drifted out from time to time, the scent distinct and not dispersed. In the plaza was a several zhang tall gigantic inscribed stele that was carved from white jade, and in the middle was carved a relief sculpture of a fairy entering the mundane world. He saw that fairy entrusting a white divine sword to a young man half kneeling below, who caught the blade. Upon the inscribed stele was a stone sword that was exactly the same as in the relief sculpture. This sword is called Heaven and Earth of the 4 Styles. 6. Legend says a goddess conferred it upon the ancestral master that opened the school. We comprehended the 4 refinement styles of today from the wind, thunder, water, fire on the sword. That is precisely this school's history. Seeing that Su Xing was a disciple of the master, and that his future held abundant prospects, Yang Yinyu very meticulously presented things. The Heaven and Earth of the 4 Styles sword is indeed a sect-protecting treasure. At the end of the plaza was a stone bridge, without foundations, stretching to the sky. One end was connected to the plaza, directly inclining upwards, into the abyss of clouds, like a dragon leaping through the heavens. Its grandeur was proud and aloof, and water flowed unceasingly from the ends, incomparably clear. Walking along this endless bridge, they ascended more than 100 steps. The representative giant beast of the 4 styles, the copper cauldrons, towered nearby. 7 afterwards, they arrived at the highest peak, the location of Styles Heart Hall. 8 Su Xing's heart said this 4 Styles school deserved the name of the ancient 9 Dragons Great Sect. Although it had declined, the remaining buildings were timeless in their manifested splendor. It was just that currently, it had an additional trace of desolation. Upon the main hall, there stood several dozen people, who all seemed to be under the 4 Styles school. Before everyone were placed 7 large sandalwood chairs, with one each on the left and right, and another position in between at the very front. Above, there actually sat only 6 people, and only the last seat on the right row was empty without anyone sitting in it. At this time, everyone in the hall was currently in discussion, seeming deliberating something. The Yang Yinyu who guided Su Xing tidied her robes outside the door, respectfully saying, "Headmaster, all master uncles." 9 disciple Yinyu received orders to bring the disciple who held on to Master Uncle Qingshan's token. "You may continue." A dense voice started to talk. Su Xing walked into the hall, and several expressions sharp as falcons looked towards him, seemingly to look at him clearly from head to toe. The cultivators in this main hall nearly were the peaks of the 4 Styles school, and Su Xing remained calm and collected, secretly sizing them up. By means of Wu Xingjia's seeing clearly innate skill, not a single one of these cultivators' cultivations did not stand out as prominent in the current Su Xing's eyes. Everyone was galaxy middle stage to late stage, and the one sitting in the middle with a fire-refining robe, seemingly different in spirit, was an old man with eyes like candle flames and the highest cultivation, already at supercluster middle stage. It was just that he saw his aged essence chi was dark, just like he was in his declining years. He was precisely the 4 Styles sect's headmaster, the Taoist master Xiantian. 10 Yuqi Qingshan was just the pinnacle tool refinement scholar of the 4 Styles school that Yang Yinyu said. After they lost his trail, Those within the sect previously wrung their wrists and sighed more than once. But when they received news that Yuqi Qingshan's apprentice was entering the door, the entire Four Styles school was astonished. The Taoist master Xiantian immediately convened the first seats of the Four Styles spirit peaks for discussion. Seeing Su Xing was calm and collected, like a dry well. 11. The Taoist master Xiantian inwardly sighed that a master under him had chosen an extraordinary apprentice. Looking at that bearing, it seemed he had seen gales and billows, imposing and steady, his expression calm. He truly was a good successor to be used for tool refinement. Originally, he still had some doubts, but now, he completely believed Su Xing was Yuqi Qingshan's apprentice. 12. In any case, even if he was not, it did not matter. The Four Styles school already had not seen such a gifted and outstanding disciple for a very long time. A nebula late-stage cultivation was not low. You are called Su Xing? The Taoist master Xiantian asked. This one beneath you precisely is Su Xing. Su Xing reported. And how did his find you? Su Xing regurgitated his speech again. And if nothing else, it was the stereotypical chance encounter, with that kind of unavoidable. Boy, I see you hold much potential in such routine. In Liangshan continent, the disciples received this way were many. The Taoist master Xiantian also asked Su Xing how his master fell. Su Xing did not directly at all say he had died, instead saying that after his master left behind the token and secret arts, master let him set out for the Four Styles school, while he swam once more into the clouds. Saying as much was to omit unnecessary troubles, and lying too much made it easy for him to become exposed. The expression of everyone present was bleak, already knowing everything towards Yuqi Qingshan bode ill, with no positive signs. Did your master leave behind any other things? The Taoist master Qingshan asked in a low voice. None. Su Xing shook his head. Like this The Taoist master Xiantian was regretful. Headmaster, since master uncle Yuqi Qingshan commanded him to come to this sect alone, it is not possible for him to practice by himself. I had better re-enroll him into the school. A full-bearded, capable man's deep voice said. His eyes looked at Su Xing like he was eyeing a treasure. Just as his fingertip was about to point at Su Xing, he was blocked by the Thunder Roll Peak first seat Yijing, 13 beside him, who rushed out in front of him. He said to the Taoist master Xiantian, Senior brother headmaster, today the moment I saw this child, I felt that he and I are kindred spirits. And seeing his practice is the clinging fire introductory cultivation method, it actually complements the thunder roll cultivation method very well. Is it not even more suitable with my heavenly fire peak? The big man was displeased. For the long-established Four Styles school, actually because it was nowadays cut off from the rest of the world, it had been blockaded by the Azure Dragon territory. So disciples could only be sought after in the dozen or so villages on Flaming Eastern Island. Think about how miserable that was. The disciples already under the school was a yellow unable to reach the green. And now seeing Su Xing's cultivation had reached this high of a nebula late stage. He simply was regarded by Master Uncle Yuqi Qingshan as a piece of delicious cake. It could not be said for sure what else that tool refinement scholar left behind for him. From what I see, he is wise and steady, calm and quick-witted. The Water Moon Peak actually could not be better. The first seat of Water Moon Peak also butted in. The Taoist master Xiantian looked at their squabble, wrinkling his brow. Quarreling into this fashion, what a scandal! A voice cold as pure frost suddenly penetrated into the main hall. The door opened. A dignified and refined beautiful woman, with a hairbun delicately walked in leisurely. The quarreling individuals in the main hall immediately shut their mouths. Junior sister Yueka, why have you left seclusion? The Taoist master Xiantian rose to go greet her. This beauty's position within the Four Styles school was not low. The first seats of the Four Styles mountain peaks all continuously smiled awkwardly. Junior sister Yueka? Su Xing's brows jumped. This woman was Ju Yueka. 14. Within the letters Yuqi Qingshan left behind, he had found many records regarding things about Ju Yueka. The relationship between the two seemed to be not simple. Su Xing surreptitiously looked her up and down. black clothes bounded white, a dancing form that birthed wind, long brows wholesomely beautiful, a manner that slightly looked down on others. Senior brother headmaster. What? I heard that senior brother had an apprentice that came to enter the school. How could junior sister not be informed? The beauty lightly smiled. The Taoist master Xiantian was embarrassed. He did not call for this junior sister of his, because he knew she and Yuqi Qingshan had some things that were not spoken of clearly between them. From the surface of the two, one was a heaven-clinging divine fire, and the other was a heavens-will water flame, an intolerable combination of sharply contrasting elements. However, he also knew this relationship of competition was more or less somewhat vague. When Yuqi Qingshan originally set out to search for a disciple, this junior sister was depressed and sad for a time. The fact his apprentice returned signified that Yuqi Qingshan had already suffered a mishap. Otherwise, how could he have possibly alone be given his personal token? 16. The Taoist master Xiantian was also afraid this junior sister would take her anger out on the talented apprentice the Four Styles School had so much difficulty receiving. Senior brother headmaster, you can relax. Yueka has already reconciled herself about him. Originally, in spite of hearing obstructions, he was determined to go to the Azure Dragon territory to receive an apprentice. Yueka then knew everything bode ill for him. Ju Yueka calmly smiled. Master Ant 17 Yueka. Su Xing bowed his head. N. Ju Yueka sized him up, nodded and mildly said, not bad. He actually has some insight, finding a good disciple when he was at death's door. He was always better off compared to our being trapped here to death. Such a pity. Senior brother headmaster, turn him over to this junior sister's school. Ju Yueka said. Senior sister Yueka, it has been very difficult these past 2 years for a gifted and outstanding youngster to come, and you have already signed him away. The first seat of Water Moon Peak complained. Lianxin's 18 progress these past several years has been comparatively great, but his temper is somewhat antisocial. Although weapon refinement masters are all this way, I certainly would not want to see something like a second senior brother Qingshan. On one hand, the cultivation of the two is close to being kindred spirits, and on the other, we can have Lianxi take care of Su Xing's potential in weapon refinement. Is it not too excessive for Yueka's school to have these two apprentices? Yueka's smile was like a lotus flower, uncontaminated by filth. The others had no alternative. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.